Grooming gangs, of course. We got Jess Gill and Anna McGovern, so it's me and Andre, and we're after the news.
Have you been on holiday?
No, it's just that we don't have professional makeup artists in the evening,
Is that
so that's why. No, I've been away for 3 days, getting a bit of winter sun. Yes, so, yeah, it's not a bad job, though, if I was this colour originally.
You look very, very healthy, so I know that that's just makeup.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Stick with Ash and Andre. They will take you through till 1 a.m. You've been an amazing audience. I've been a mediocre presenter. I'll be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for another edition of the Political Asylum. You better be there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. There we go, finally. Fixed the headsets. That's all good. Ready to go now. OK, so what a big day this has been. There's been a huge debate about Nigel Farage's attitude towards Tommy Robinson. I have to say that my own view is that Farage obviously was wrong. It is not true to say, that Tommy Robinson has been convicted of beating women. That is considered in working class communities, as many of you would know, as a quote-unquote nonce offence, something that you would not do even if you were a criminal. Therefore, presumably, well, we know that Tommy Robinson is extremely offended. However, to be fair, no political party would run somebody who's a convicted criminal as a candidate. And as I've said before, I like Tommy Robinson in terms of what he said, but to be fair, he did also commit an immigration offence in the United States of America. I think it's a difficult question. Ben Habib is, without question, the most popular right-wing politician on this channel, and he is here now to bring some semblance of sanity. Ben, how are you?
Good evening. Very well, thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you for that intro. I'm not sure everyone would agree with you, but thank you.
OK, so Howard Cox has quit Reform over the Tommy Robinson thing. Do me a favour, because I think, Ben, that there's loads and loads of people who will watch the Tommy Robinson Oxford Union address and think it is a phenomenal piece of work, that recognise that he is somebody who has first-hand experience of one of his relatives being targeted by a grooming gang, but also is rough round the edges. What should political parties do with him?
So I think there's a propensity, an understandable propensity, for people on our side of the debate to try and sanitize themselves, because we're so used to being accused of being racist or xenophobic or prejudiced at some level, that we try to take a middle road so that the mainstream media and those on the left who seem to hold sway more than channels like talk radio and so on, so that they can't rubbish us. And I think there's a propensity, therefore, to throw some of our own under a bus. I don't know Tommy Robinson. I will not advocate for Tommy Robinson. I will not denounce Tommy Robinson. I would need to know him, examine his cases, and really look into them in depth before I take a view on Tommy Robinson.
My issue with Tommy Robinson is this. I keep hearing people go, oh, do you know about Tommy Robinson? Yes, I know everything about him. Every single criminal conviction has been splashed over every newspaper. Everything he's ever done. The fact that, bizarrely, his occupation is tanning shop owner, which I think is hard to get.
I've got a very good tan.
But I know everything about him, apart from one thing. Is he right? So let me just unpack that, Ben, slightly, because I think there's two levels of is he right. First of all, he centrally contends, first of all, that there is a systematic targeting of white girls in what the Indians call a love jihad, that there is also segregation in schools in Luton, that inter-religious relationships are effectively banned in Luton, that there are no-go areas for white people in Luton. So the first question
Alma Hajaroon, of course, was formed in Luton.
The first question is he telling the truth about Luton? So let's see a study into that. But secondly, and I think the second point is it right to say that would be symptomatic of the rest of the country? Because what you could say is, well, OK, Luton's had a large amount of immigration, right? So it's whilst that's Tommy's experience, it's not the more general experience. Whether he is a mortgage fraudster, whether he has beaten somebody up at Royal Ascot, whether he is committed immigration fraud or mortgage fraud or anything like that, is not as important as asking the question: is the bloke right?
It's the central point that he's making and has been making for many years. Is that point right? And my own view is that it's increasingly right. And we all see it with our own anecdotal evidence, don't we? When you see these excerpts of these court cases for the gang rape gangs, it's not a whole load of white Anglo-Saxon names that you see. They're from essentially, we all recognise them to be Pakistani names. Now, that's only anecdotal evidence, but there is the Quilliam report from 2017. I don't know if you remember it, but it did an analysis.
83% of gang rapes were by that group. Is he a political prisoner, Tommy Robinson?
So technically, I think he is a political prisoner because the reason he's in jail, it's very important to unpack this properly.
Well, the Attorney General, I heard you talking about that, who's a political appointment, and he raised
Exactly. Exactly, Ash. So it was the Attorney General who interceded in a civil action. So civil action, just for those who are listening and aren't familiar with it, is distinct from a criminal action. It was just someone suing Tommy Robinson for defamation. Those kinds of cases typically end with a fine or a penalty. And actually, it was the Attorney General, who was appointed by the Labour Party, who is a Labour politician, decided that because Tommy Robinson showed a film that he was prohibited from selling pursuant to an injunction, that he should have the book thrown at him. And a case was brought, therefore, against Tommy Robinson by a politician.
So that's lawfare, and he's a political prisoner.
But hang on a second.
Yeah. And then he went to court.
Ben, aren't I right in saying, and I'll check up while you're talking, isn't the Attorney General a barrister at Matrix Chambers who represented Anjam Chowdhury, Shamima Begum, and a lot of the people who've attempted to sue Tommy Robinson anyway?
Well, you might have. I can't remember. I don't know that answer, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me because he's a Labour-appointed lawyer into that position. And then, of course, he went to court, And the court didn't fine him, didn't give him a rap on the knuckles, didn't, sentence him to community service, incarcerated him. And, that's pretty...
But he's in solitary as well.
Hang on a second. There's an even more dastardly element of this, because if you look at the Tommy Robinson documentary, right, which he's injuncted from showing, let's just remind ourselves what happened. There was a young man who was who accused Britain of racially discriminating against him, beating him up.
A Syrian guy.
A Syrian refugee. A series of young girls came forward to make some pretty horrendous allegations about him and said that what had happened was a retaliatory attack for his behaviour. He then sued Tommy Robinson. Not 5 people came forward to back up Tommy Robinson's claims. He, in court, brought only his dad. And then the court, by the way, Tommy Robinson had also covertly filmed the head teacher of the school confirming Tommy Robinson's story. The head teacher was not able to go to court because he'd signed an NDA and had been given some compensation. And
I think he lost his job, didn't he?
Yeah.
The head teacher.
The council's made everyone sign the NDA.
So all of the people that were on Tommy Robinson's videos were subject to an NDA. 5 people turned up to stand up Tommy Robinson's claim, and the court ruled that it was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and it was impossible to know who was telling the truth, despite the fact that Tommy had 5 witnesses and all this covert recording, and this guy turns up with only his dad, who never even claimed to be there.
So all of that makes perfect sense the way you described it. And we all know, don't we, again, anecdotally, that we live in a criminal justice system that's got 2 tiers.
Yes.
We see it repeatedly. And why we should assume, I'm not suggesting anything to the contrary, but why we should assume that on this one occasion, the criminal justice system has acted fairly and Tommy Robinson deserves to be in jail is a peculiar assumption to make, in my view. If we've got
Before you go, because I know you're in a real rush, and I really appreciate you coming on.
No, not at all.
I just want you to finish off by this deal with reform. Look, most of viewers and listeners of this show, there's no point messing about. We're disappointed that you were replaced by Richard Tice. I think they accept that members of Parliament need to take priority, but they would have liked to have seen perhaps 2 deputies. Where are you up to? Where is Howard Cox up to? And what do you expect to happen?
So I've got a number of issues with reform, but at the heart of my issues with reform is the fact that Nigel Farage controls it. It's a private limited company. He owns 60% of it, and therefore it is just a one-man band. It's a single point of failure. If Nigel wakes up one morning wanting to do something, everyone's got to do it. And for me, you can't be a proper political party. You can't stand for democracy if you don't have a proper political party where your own members have some democratic voice and there are checks and balances. That's the heart of it. There are other issues which I won't bore listeners with, but I think Nigel is making some mistakes.
Is there no way back that you could ever make up and come back? It maybe if Rupert, what's his name, was the leader instead of Nigel? Rupert Lowe.
That would require Nigel to step aside, and that would be entirely in Nigel's hands because he owns the party. He controls it.
Yeah. And if he didn't, would you then go join, even if he was still leader and he gave up the...
I've always spoken the truth as I see it, and I can't see any circumstances on which Nigel and I would ever work together.
I don't get the impression... I might be wrong, and I know you do have to go, but I don't get the impression...
I can stay if you want me to stay.
Oh, yeah, stay.
I get the impression that you don't hate Nigel Farage. You're not his enemy. You just have serious reservations about the dictatorial way he runs things.
Yeah, I've got nothing against Nigel. Nigel's done great things for this country. We wouldn't have the referendum in 2016. The British people wouldn't have voted to take back control of their own destiny from the EU if it wasn't for Nigel. But there are other things with which I disagree. And one of the, if you want an organisation that's really going to prevail, it can never be on the back of one man. You need, a dozen, 2 dozen great brains, all speaking without fear, all being held to account by their members, good ideas forward, being debated, and then the best ideas turning into policy and being established. And you can't do that if you just have one guy.
But isn't Nigel Farage, in reality, hasn't he been badly burnt by the fact that, funnily enough, he phoned me today and I did say to him, look, I think reform's going quite well simply because, half of the UKIP MEPs were just literally mentally ill, right? So it's all a step forward. But the point I'm making is, Nigel, I think, has always been fearful, or more recently has been fearful, about the fact that there will be some feral person that will cause all sorts of mayhem. Because we are the awkward squad. We are the refused nicks, right? We are the difficult ones.
I can't go... I can if you want to, but there are very simple ways to make sure that a party isn't hijacked by a kind of entryist, destabilizing force. There are ways to prevent that from happening. Very easy to do that. But, crucially, I believe in the British people, and ultimately, if you believe in the British people being the right... having the correctly making the decisions or directing the politicians to make the decisions for the country, you must even make decisions for your own party.
Well, I'm going to ask you one question. I'm not going to attribute it to anybody, although you might guess who said it to me. But I was speaking to somebody who said, could this be Reform's Clause 4 moment when, by castigating Tommy Robinson, they prove that they are moderate right-wingers rather than far-right?
Yeah, look, Nigel doesn't need to have Tommy Robinson in the party. No one is saying get Tommy Robinson into Reform.
Tommy Robinson doesn't want to join the party, he says.
He doesn't want to join the party. Yeah. That's a red herring. And all Nigel needs to do... Can I just give Nigel a bit of advice? If you clip this and send it to Nigel...
Happy to do that.
Oh, he'll be watching.
Nigel, just shut up about Tommy Robinson. No one wants to hear your opinion on Tommy Robinson. It's irrelevant. Tommy Robinson doesn't want you speaking about him, and no one else does. But, if you are going to speak about him in balanced terms. Try and see it from a broader perspective, and don't, incessantly throw the man under a bus.
Do you think he's obsessed with him?
I don't know. Why do you think
Nigel is a Prime Minister material, or is he a campaigner like Boris? If he becomes leader, will he be a good one?
It's too early to tell. Nigel has never run any organisation.
No.
And even with Reform, he's reluctant to make it into a proper organisation. And that's my point. And if you're running the country, you need a breadth and depth of great people around you. You've got to listen to them. Margaret Thatcher, had fantastic...
advisors.
Down to Maggie. Yeah, she had great advisors. Absolutely.
All men, though. She only liked men, didn't she?
Well, yeah, but I've got
to be honest with you.
I'm gonna leave it there, but I will say one thing, Rupert. I'll say one thing. Sorry. I was just thinking. Sorry, Ben. I was just thinking this. This is an awful thing to say, and it's so bitchy. But I was watching Nigel Farage speak in the Westminster Hall debate, and it's really obvious he's doing dry January. Like he doesn't look like he's just woken up anymore. But anyway, that is slightly bitchy. Ben Habib, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
We're going to be back continuing talking about this issue and others, and also the grooming gang inquiry straight after this.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. And you know what? Whilst I'm getting open a comment that I wanted to read to you by a former Labour advisor, I want to tell you a story that Douglas Murray told, and I think this is absolutely astonishing. There was a girl in Kerr in Oxford, and unfortunately she'd been kidnapped by a grooming gang who were gang raping her and drugging her up. What she did was she escaped from the group, got into a taxi and got herself back to the children's home where she was being looked after. The staff at the children's home didn't want to pay the taxi fare, so phoned up the grooming gang that had kidnapped and raped her and got them to come over, pay for the taxi and take her back. So she had managed to come to, she had escaped the grooming gang, and it was social services that gave her back.
And they should be put in prison, you know.
Absolutely.
That's what these inquiries should be about.
Morally reprehensible. But I've got a real winner for you here. I want to read this out. This is from Lee Jasper. Lee Jasper was Ken Livingstone when he was Mayor of London's Director of Policing. So he was the guy who was in charge of telling people what to do in terms of policing from 2004 to 2008. And I will read this to you, and you'll love this very much. I'm from the north, born and bred and lived near Rochdale for some time. Sexual violence and abuse of women and children and remains rife in poor communities. My own view is that we groomed the Pakistani men into this abusive aspect of working class British
That's
culture.
what they say. They blame the girls for, you know, not covering their hair or being, you know, white.
So just to be clear, a Labour advisor to a Labour Mayor of London on policing believes that the girls that were raped should tell their fathers, their grandfathers, their uncles and their brothers to stop telling the culprits to do it. The families that are the victims should be apologising to the culprits. Absolutely.
It was in Labour areas in the main as well, so that's why. I mean,
morally reprehensible. Yeah. Anyway, by the way, you can watch some even more rabid stuff about grooming gangs on my YouTube, which is www.youtube.com/Andre Walker. If you think this is rabid, then you really want to watch the YouTube channel. Anyway, talking of rabid, I'm joined now by Jess Gill, who is a political commentator. Jess, you're from Bolton. So obviously it's not right at the centre, but it is a place that has a large amount of Pakistani immigration. First of all, look, let's set aside you being a contributor and let's talk about you as a young woman. When did you become aware of this? And do you have any, I know you don't have any direct experience, but do you have any first-hand knowledge of what's been going on?
I think just all around the general sense of Greater Manchester, constantly hearing story after story after story about this. Like, I think I was around 14 when the mini documentary drama series 3 Girls came out. And honestly, ever since then, I've just been exposed to this stuff non-stop. The story that you were telling the audience about this girl who got in the taxi and then they had to, the grooming gangs, they pretty much sent her back to the grooming gangs. That's not a surprise to me anymore. No. I'm numb to it, and it's sad that I have to be numb to it because it's one of the worst things that has ever happened in British history. I recently went to Rochdale because, like you said, I live near Bolton, and I thought, well, if the government...
Rochdale's the other side.
Well, it's closer than London.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're a West Ender, whereas Rochdale's the East End, isn't it?
Yeah, it took around an hour on the train to get there. And honestly, like, I didn't realise how deprived some parts of the north is. Like, I know Bolton was bad, but Rochdale, it was honestly so depressing. And to see these working class families, we went around for around a couple of hours asking anyone to speak out about it. We even said we'd blur your face. I don't normally do that, but I think in this situation
And that's for what
needed.
channel?
For Vox Populi, it's called. And not many people said... Not many people agreed to do it. Not many people agreed to go in front of the camera, even with their face blurred out. But behind the scenes, a lot of people said, keep up the good work. We like what you're doing, but I'm not brave enough.
But here's the thing. Now, look, I would personally put Sir Peter Fahey on trial, the former Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, and I'd seek a custodial sentence. The reason is it's a criminal offence to ignore a criminal offence if you're a police officer. And I think... Look, I don't want to defame the man, but I think Peter Fahey would struggle to defend himself in a criminal prosecution. But my point is this. Tony Blair became aware of this in 2001 when there was a report. That report was suppressed, and when somebody attempted to leak it, the police were instructed to intimidate this person. Forget your two-tier. The police were assisting the grooming gangs, and they were assisting them in the following ways. They were intimidating those people who were criticising it. They were arresting the parents who were attempting to liberate the children, and in some case they were literally driving the children back to the rape gangs. So, look, as far as I'm concerned, I would do what Mikhail Saakashvili did in Georgia. Knock down the police station, sack all the police, and bring new people in. Because anybody associated with this just needs to go.
Isn't Andy Burnham, he's the head of police now, and he's actually today said there should be an inquiry, so he's a major voice in Labour, but shouldn't he take over the Greater Manchester Police and put Maggie, what's her name?
Maggie Oliver.
She used to be in GMP. He should put her the head of the task force, and, you know, this girl's being raped right now. This is an emergency, and they should be out there, you know, there should be a task force sorting this out, but shouldn't Burnham be doing something more about this, seeing as he's the head of the police in Greater Manchester?
Burnham's had so many failures in the past. The fact that he's taken it this long to get to this. We're talking about children being raped, abused and groomed here. They're being... I spoke to Billy from Parents Against Groomers in Rochdale, and he was telling me stories about them being chained to radiators, them being whipped, all awful things that
they got branded.
But Jess, let's just throw out something that's completely honest here. This community are all on postal votes, and they vote multiple times in every election. The Labour Party is reliant on their systematic electoral fraud. That's why Andy Burnham won't do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. They're afraid
it's
to
not even relying on their votes, relying on electoral fraud they commit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's honestly ridiculous. It should be a scandal. It's one of the worst things that has happened in British history, that the Labour Party have ignored this and refused to have a national inquiry about this.
I think it is the worst thing. I mean, apparently it's up to 250,000 girls since the 70s.
Yeah.
The early 70s.
Yeah, and honestly, as a young woman, obviously I've not experienced anything like that, but I know that if something did happen, I live in Tottenham, which isn't the most whitest area, and I know things like that do happen. I've been constantly sexually harassed, not abused, but people have said stuff every time I go out the street, and this is just a representation.
Well, look, I don't want... this isn't an exercise in titillation, but can you explain what happens? Like, you walk down the street and people say or do what?
Yeah, I actually tweeted about this, and I got so much hate for just speaking out about sexual harassment.
Being honest about the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all big feminists until you start criticising one of our Commonwealth friends.
Yeah, until it comes to young girls being groomed by Pakistani men for some reason. But yeah, so... there's been so many occasions off it. People have followed me back to my accommodation. People have just, like, said really inappropriate comments.
Has it got worse over the last 5 years, do you think?
Well, I've lived in London for...
But is it from anyone in the community, or is it from certain...
It is from it's from certain people.
Are you basically saying, because this is the central allegation, that there is an indigenous population of white people who have a standard of behaviour and the immigrants don't know what that standard is? That is the allegation. Is that effectively what your impression of this is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to make it about race, but it has to be about race when it is just a certain demographic of people. When I lived in Bolton, which the area of Bolton I was from was majority white, I never got this. I felt safe going around the streets at night, and now in Tottenham, I really don't feel safe. I don't even go.
Is it recent migrants from Pakistan that you're tending to find?
There's not a very big community of Pakistan.
No, it's not Pakistani necessarily. It's just generally.
Can I ask you this question? We might as well be honest. Look. Is this a problem with Islam, or is it a problem with Pakistanis?
I think it's a problem with immigration in general. It's not just Pakistanis who are saying this, and it's a sad reality.
And it's 83% of grooming gangs, according to the Quilliam report.
Yeah, with the specific grooming gangs,
Muslims.
It's Pakistani. But again, the general attitude of the immigrant population towards women isn't the best, as I've experienced in Tottenham.
No, and the general attitude, which I think is horribly racist, is that you are a second-class citizen. You are there to be exploited by whoever comes over to the country. And I will say one thing, and people are going to get upset about this, but in India they call it the love jihad, which basically the love jihad, the concept is that you will get as many women pregnant from the other community and force them to bring the children up as Muslims in order to Islamify a particular area. No, in India. In India, because of the expansionist nature of Islam. Now, I don't think they were getting the grooming girls pregnant, but there is a general attitude which I think has been ingrained in people that white girls are scumbags. And by the way, the vast majority of people who back that up are our own people. Labour MPs would throw you out of a surgery for telling them that your daughter had been raped. The police will come for you if you're... The police are threatening people now. I mean, I get people contacting me all the time saying I'm being done for racism because the rapist, my daughter's rapist, made a complaint to the police and the police are on their side.
Yeah, I honestly don't get how they can look at this incident where children are being raped and groomed and say that's not an issue. What is an issue is somebody saying a slightly offensive, politically incorrect tweet or something like that. Why do they think that's the issue?
It's political expediency, isn't it? Because they're all, like, you know, get voted for. Jess Phillips only won by 600 votes to the Islamist party that was just behind her. I mean, the Sikh communities and the Hindu communities have told their girls about it because they know about it, I suppose, because of history, and they actually warn. But white working class girls, especially vulnerable ones, they don't get this explained to them. So,
yeah.
you know, the signs, if these guys come up to you, you know, and offer you things.
Yeah, we're meant to be colourblind, but then we forget that everyone else isn't colourblind and all these other races are acting on the basis of race.
The other thing is, and I'm just going to say this, right, you know, Britain is one of the most developed countries on earth. The people coming to this country are coming from shitholes, right? I mean, and what amazes me, you look around Mogadishu and you go, well, do you know what? In the list of worst places to live, Mogadishu is high up there. It was a dump before they bombed it, right? And then you go, let's get to London. Do you know what London needs to be more like? Mogadishu. No, Mogadishu's a dump. Don't go to Mogadishu. It's dreadful, right? Pakistan, I mean, come on. Apart from the curries, it's largely a dump as well.
I don't even like the curries.
But I mean, no, the curries are good. The curries are good, right? But you think to yourself, the number one thing that Bolton doesn't need is to be more like Lahore, right? Because Lahore's a dump as well, right? And we need to start saying this, but what we've actually done is gone equal but different. We've gone, hey, you know what? We all go to church on a Sunday and pray to God. Well, if you're into mutty magic and voodoo, then that's just the same. No, if you're into mutty magic and voodoo, you're a savage. More next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry about this. I was trying to get some information. So let's just be clear on the allegation we made earlier. The allegation we made earlier was the Attorney General who'd intervened on Tommy Robinson in order to throw him in prison rather than give him a fine. What did he do before he was Attorney General? He was the Silk Senior Barrister KC at Matrix Chambers, the people that represent all the absolute wrong-uns. Anjam Chowdhury, Shamima Begum. Did you ever see In the Name of the Father? They were the people that represented the entirely innocent Guildford Four, who absolutely never did anything wrong at all. Okay.
And he raised the bar, so he was charged with a criminal offence. So that's a political decision.
So the long and short of it is, the person that decided to throw Tommy Robinson in prison worked for the law firm that has been attacking Tommy Robinson for the past 15 years. Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? OK, well, I mean, look, this studio's lurched to the right once again now, if that were possible, right? I mean, I'll tell you something. I'm starting to look.
I'm the lefty.
Lefty?
You should hear me in the breaks.
I'll tell you what. Oh, no, I'll tell you what. He's disguised himself as a lefty. Yeah. Right, anyway, what I will do is I will bring balance to this, because we've now brought in Anna McGovern, who, let's be clear, makes Jess Gill look like a communist. And that's quite difficult to do. So Anna, have you been out and about talking to young women?
Yeah, you know what?
I mean, not in general. I don't want to cast this.
I could speak from my own personal experience when I was 20. So I used to work at a school doing late night shifts, and I was walking back to my house, less than a 10-minute walk.
A night shift school?
Yeah, it was a boarding school I used to work at, looking after students. Walking back to my house.
Oh, Anna, you've got your hair clashing with the mic.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Don't worry about it. Look, me Casa too, Casa.
There you go. So walking back, less than a 10-minute walk, when all of a sudden I feel a hand coming right between my legs, trying to lift me up, and I turn around, and
I think we're going to have to do something to that microphone.
Oh no!
Right, the mic is rubbing against Anna's chest. So what we're going to do is we're not going to cut to Anna now whilst he gets prepared. Yeah, just get your hand down there, it'll be fine.
Let Anna do it herself.
No, let Anna do it herself. Let Anna do it herself. Hashtag me too. Hashtag me too.
03444991000 if you want to get in on the action.
That's obscene. That's obscene. Oh, I'll tell you what, you get a good look sometimes, don't you? 0344499. We didn't see anything. Don't worry. Don't worry. HR could paper the walls with complaints. Don't worry. Anyway, sorry.
I'm going to start that story again.
Yeah,
so, less than a 10-minute walk. I'm walking back. It's about midnight, where I feel a hand going in between my legs and trying to lift me up. Horrendous. And I turn around, and it's this foreign man who's trying to speak to me in a foreign language and starts blowing kissy faces. Wearing headphones, I scream and I run, and he's coming after me.
Chasing you?
He's following me,
so at this point, you believe you're about to get raped?
So it was terrifying. It's late at night. There's no one else about. Exactly. And it took almost 2 years to get an answer on what happened with this man.
And who was he, this
man? It was a foreign criminal.
Was he arrested?
It took almost 2 years, but I do believe he was actually deported. But it took almost 2 years.
So presumably the police were not keen to take action to start with, but you being Anna McGovern, and you've got some zip, right? You forced them to do it, basically.
Well, actually, this was before I was even in journalism. There were several other girls who were also assaulted by him near the local area, because where I lived was near so it was in Rochester, in Medway, so it's near a university campus. So there were other girls involved in this as well that he had,
How many years ago was this?
This would have been, I would have been 20, so about 3 or 4 years ago now this would have been.
That must have been absolutely terrifying. I mean, look, I'm a big lad, I'd just sit on someone, but even me...
He probably wouldn't have groped you.
No, but I mean, no, obviously not, but if someone had done that to me and started chasing me, I mean, I wouldn't have been very happy. And I mean, I weigh like the size of a truck or something, right?
I mean, you feel very vulnerable in that situation, and there was no one else about. It's pitch black. What are you going to do? All I could do was run and hope he doesn't catch me.
Do you know, one of my mates, my Ukrainian mate, said to me, the big problem with Britain today, so over there, I mean, even before the war, you could have mace sprays and tasers and all that sort of stuff. And he said, what what I don't understand about Britain is the police don't patrol the streets, they don't protect you, and they've made it illegal for you to protect yourself. I mean, I have to say that, based on what you've said, having a pepper spray or a taser, to me, sounds eminently sensible.
I had a German girlfriend and it's legal there, and it would be brilliant if you could have a pepper spray and it would immediately stops us. But it's a firearm. It's considered a firearm.
I mean, I can see why people do that out of self-defence, but I think if I was to now, if someone was to come up behind me, maybe assault me, and I used a pepper spray, I would be concerned if I would be put in trouble because I'm racist.
Well, you would be, because it's a firearm.
Can I let you into a little secret, right? And this is a top tip for everyone, right? You know those mag lights, the torches. Now, you are perfectly legally allowed to walk around with a torch that needs a big amount of batteries. Now, mag lights, by pure coincidence, make the handle out of hardened steel. Right now, you know the way the police hold the mag lights like that. Now, you hold it like that so you can press the button, but it does allow you to cough someone over the head. Now, if you are taking your mag light out because you need a torch with a big battery capacity and you clock someone over the head who attacks you, that is entirely legal. And if you don't believe me, you can ask. Now, if what you're doing, if you've got the mag light torch because you want to hit somebody over that, but it's a torch. Now, it needs a big battery capacity, and in order to make it robust, it's made out of hardened steel.
But why have you taken a torch nightclubbing with you?
I think you'd struggle with that one. Although I'll tell you what,
it's got a strobe, hasn't it, on it?
When I worked in the House of Commons, we received a phone call one day from Cromwell Green Entrance, and they said, "Look, sir, are you expecting Susan Jones to come over?" And I went, "Yeah, she's an intern. Look, we've got a major problem." Right, so we got down, and she come from America, and she had a pepper spray. And he said, legally, it's a scheduled firearm in the United Kingdom. And I went, "Can't you take it off her?" He went, "No, I can't take it off her." He said, "Because if I take it off her and go, 'Look what I found,' they'll go, 'Who did you get that from?'" So I said, "Right, well, can we walk off with it?" He said, "Well, I can't let you walk off with it either because it's a scheduled firearm." I said, "How about we just stick it on the grid, smash it quite hard, and let it fall down the grid?" And he went, "Yeah, that's a good idea." He said, "Look, the problem is," he said, "I should arrest her for having a firearm, but given she didn't know and she took it through Heathrow Airport, I mean, it's not. You've
got things in your keys and stuff, but always, if there's any girl, bang on front doors of people, you know, if you're getting chased by someone. How did you get away from that anyway?
So, luckily, where I live was up a hill, and I think when you're in a scenario like that where you've got someone chasing you and groping you from behind, they tracked the CCTV, so he'd actually been following me for several minutes.
Oh, no.
From behind. I had no idea he was following me.
So creepy.
So, I think I literally charged it up the hill, just like charging because I was so scared. And I think luckily where I lived in such a top hill, I think he just sort of gave up. He's standing there waving. He's waving and blowing kissy faces.
That's because that is, Jess, I would suggest, symptomatic of the allegation that's being made that these people have had drummed into them that white girls are just. Am I allowed to use the word SLUTS? But I don't know. It's Ofcom don't like the word.
That's what they call them anyway.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, so they just sat around going, "You get over to Britain. You can just grab them. You can just grope them. Oh, they're all fair game. They're just scumbags."
It's also racially aggravated, isn't it? That's the other side.
Yeah, they are literally doing it because they're white girls. They say that themselves. And in all honesty, I think most normal people, most normal British people, maybe it's within our culture, but we know that isn't a normal thing to do. I couldn't imagine any one of my male friends doing that, blowing kisses. Like, that's so strange.
Can I ask you this question, though? Because we've got to be fair-minded to people. And at the end of the day, I've got a large number of Pakistani and Muslim friends and others. And I feel really sorry for them for the way that they're being besmirched because of the actions of a small number of people. I mean, do we think that what you found is symptomatic of everybody, or is it that there is just too big a minority of wrong-uns?
No, I don't think it's everyone, obviously. I have many minority friends. I don't want this to to get rid of the importance of talking about the girls with the grooming gang, because that's often what it's used as, like a red herring, I think they call it.
But I actually think that turning round and saying you can't stop grooming gangs because that's racist against Pakistanis. What you've actually done is you've smeared every Pakistani with that, haven't you? Because you've now said, look, these people are committed to doing this. They're all in on it. That's why we can't say anything. If you turn round and say there are a small percentage of these people who do it and we've locked them up,
but where's the communities, the Pakistani communities who are good? Why aren't they getting it?
They're in on it too a lot of the times. They're not bringing these people forward.
Exactly. I mean, it's openly known.
One of the problems is, and I actually believe this. There is a remarkable level of naivety, right? These guys, all of them, to a man who get convicted, say, I was completely innocent, they're making it up because they're Islamophobic. And they've got all their family and friends out there who I think probably believe them. Because the other thing is, I mean, I remember when I spent a lot of time in Southall, and you'd see these old duffers who are about 1,000 years old who can only speak Urdu, and they're sat there going, my grandson's a good boy, goes to mosque every day and is good Pakistani, and you think, you've got no knowledge of what a teenager in London, Pakistani descent or otherwise, gets up to. And I just think that they're just, you know, he's just going out, he just drives round in his car all night picking up people in taxis. Does he really? I mean, I've got a friend of mine. I'm really gonna have a go at people now. It's quite funny though. You know how there's those Pakistani taxi drivers that always hang around at train stations, and obviously they have a right to be there because they've got the licence. My mate Asghar said the real reason they sit there all day, they know there's no work, but they're all in arranged marriages and they hate the wives.
Oh my God.
So they stand there going, oh, I was out for 18 hours today, love. I don't know what about it. Anyway, listen, Asghar Majid was the mayor of Windsor. He told me that. I'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah.
It looks like an old Victorian nut house that they turned into luxury
Because there's
flats.
one in Friday, they all look like that. They really know how to build hospitals, the Victorians, didn't they?
Yeah, now I'm doing all right. I'm thinking of moving to Virginia Park in Virginia Water. And by the way, I can tell you that because you can't dox me because there's security on the door.
To the lunatic asylum. Yeah, but they don't let you out rather than the people in.
You can't get in. There's literally like a guard hut with a guy with a Kalashnikov to fend off.
Back in your padded cell.
To fend off all cowards and intruders, which will be a joke some people will get. OK, let's now talk about Sebastian Gorka. Right, love Sebastian, he's a good bloke, but he has called for Britain to take back Shamima Begum. Just to roughly explain what this is, and it's something that the Peshmerga, the Kurds, have been complaining about for a long time. They've got all of these foreign fighters, all of these foreign terrorists, all these foreign extremists, and they now don't know what to do with them. I've got a very simple answer, but sadly the death penalty is illegal in Kurdistan. But I mean, genuinely, I'd execute them. I know Assad did. Wasn't all bad, that, if I'm being totally honest. But there is a problem. And Shamima, obviously, now we need to do something with her. My own view remains this, what she was told originally, which if she wants consular services, she'll have to go to the nearest British consulate, which is in Turkey. And that, I think, is 800 miles walk. So if she sets off now, she'll be there by the time she's retired.
But Seb Gorka is actually going to become a part, I think he's head of national security in the States now, and he's saying Britain should, have sanctions. But in America, if she got back to America, obviously she'd get 40 years in a Supermax prison. Yeah. Here, she probably won't even go to prison or get a couple of years. So that's the big difference.
What will happen here, and this is why they're desperate not to bring her back, because Matrix Chambers, once again, where Keir Starmer was, and the Attorney General will sue. She'll get a big payout. She'll sit a fat, lazy backside on the social for the next 40 years, and you'll buy her £1 million flat in central
London.
London.
She'll have to be watched 24 hours a day.
As part of the council house.
A couple of million quid a year.
And she'll be venerated by the BBC. She'll become a millionaire off the back of it, and she'll be a superstar. And what they'll say is they'll expunge all of her terrorism and just say she was trafficked.
Yeah.
Sorry, but grooming doesn't exist. But no, grooming doesn't exist. But if it did, Shamima would be the only victim. Jess.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely ridiculous considering we were just talking about real victims who had no choice in it. They were deemed as the police as prostitutes. They were shunned from the social system and social authorities. And meanwhile, all this attention is going to Shamima Begum, who made her choice, who made her choice to join ISIS, join a terrorist organisation.
Yeah, by the way, she now wants to come back to Britain because her terrorist organisation was defeated.
Yeah, she doesn't.
It's not a road to Damascus.
She's as an adult as well, and she apparently policed the women. The rape victims. She policed the women and made sure they were wearing their heads.
By the way, I'll tell you one thing. So the producer today is Chuck Thomas, and he's told me off for saying this and begged me not to say it anymore. He's got the dump button ready. But it is a fact that the punishment for terrorism in Syria and Iraq is the death penalty. I don't think that we should be racist against Iraqis and Syrians. I think we should be supporting local prosecutors in their aim. Look, as far as I'm concerned, and my mum used to say this in reference to going to bed late and being tired in the morning. Big boy at night, big boy in the morning, right? Shamima Begum went over to join a terrorist organisation. If the punishment for terrorism in the country she went to is death, we should be supporting local prosecutors in enacting that sentence.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for her. I just don't want her here. I think that's fair enough.
But you know, Anna, full well that if she comes to Britain, she will be richly rewarded for punishing and harassing the people of Syria.
I can already imagine the Netflix documentaries about it. All the money that's
She'll be a hero.
made. She would be made a hero. And I think she made her decision. She joined a terrorist organisation. She should not be welcomed back into the UK.
I debated at the University of London Mozambique. Now, remember, Mozambique has been cleared of all terrorist charges. So it's important to understand that Mozambique has received a big payout and he shouldn't have been in Guantanamo Bay because he's not a terrorist. What actually happened to him was this. And let me tell you the story. Poor old Mozambique. He wanted to study IT, but he couldn't afford the tuition fees in Britain, so he decided to go to a college on the Pakistani-Afghan border. Right. Now, unfortunately, property in Pakistan's quite expensive, so he decided to get a house in Afghanistan instead, under the Taliban rule, because that's what most students do, don't they? They decide to go to the Afghan-Pakistan border and then move to Afghanistan, even though they're from Britain. when the war in Afghanistan broke out, Mozam was very worried and wanted to get back to Britain, but he couldn't afford the airfare to get back to Britain, so him and 6 of his friends hired a minivan and decided to drive across Afghanistan. Now, the problem was, because it was unsafe in Afghanistan, they had to drive through the Tora Bora Mountains, and because the Tora Bora Mountains were unsafe, they all thought it was worth buying a machine gun each. And that is why Mozam Beg, who received a payout from the British, that was why Mozam Beg was found in the Tora Bora Mountains with 6 guys with AK-47 assault rifles by the American army. He was shipped to Guantanamo Bay. He has been found completely not guilty, innocent of all this, and he's received a substantial payout by the British taxpayer.
I went to school with him, by the way. He went to a Jewish primary school, can you believe it? Obviously didn't do him any good.
He wasn't that keen on them by the end. but that is the level. I mean, Shamima Begum, so, you know, sweetness and light, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. You know, they were hacking people's heads off for having half a cider.
Yeah. She didn't even regret it, did she? When she said, "Oh, I looked in the bucket and there was heads in there." So, and she carried on as an adult.
And then you've got these conversations that are happening where people say, "Yes, she should be brought back to the UK. She should be tried in the UK." At the end of the day, she made a decision. She joined a terrorist organisation. She knew exactly what she was doing, and now she has to live with that decision. I don't think there should be any conversation about her.
Well, she's not British anymore. They've taken citizenship.
Exactly. So why are we?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, once again, she is now entitled to Bengali consular services. The nearest consulate to them, I think, is Riyadh.
And they execute terrorists as well, by the way. They said they'd execute her,
which I think is a good 500-mile walk. But let me now ask you this question, and this is left field. It's not on your running order, but I really think it's worth me mentioning. Right, today, the United Arab Emirates prescribed 8 terrorist organisation in the United Kingdom and 11 people. Right, so I'm going to read this out to you. This is pretty staggering. The United Arab Emirates has basically accused the United Kingdom of harbouring jihadi terrorists.
Oh, we do.
And so
the former Hamas military leader living in Harrow.
The 11 names I'm not going to read out because they're fairly typical Islamic names, and they're not people that I necessarily recognise the name of. But what I will tell you is, they have listed 11 people as terrorists, all living in the United Kingdom, mostly refugees, and all of them are not British citizens. None of them British citizens. Now, I want to read you the list of 8 new prescribed terrorist groups in the United Arab Emirates. You'll be shocked by the names of these organisations. The Cambridge Education and Training Centre Limited, based in Cambridge. Imagine Limited. Wembley Tree Limited, Wasla for All, Future Graduates Limited, Yas for Investment and Real Estate, Holdco Properties Limited, Nafel Capital. These are limited companies in the United Kingdom, and they are businesses that are trading with offices. Now, we have a go at the Muslims all the time, but if we're in a situation where the United Arab Emirates had 11 IRA terrorists and 8 IRA branches pretending to be companies, we would castigate these people. But I guarantee you, these 11 are going nowhere. They will be all there claiming their human rights. If we try and deport these, all that we'll do is end up £1 million poorer as a taxpayer.
Why do you think that is? Where do you think this mentality comes from?
I can tell you, it's the right to family life in the European Convention on Human Rights, Article 8. That guy who ran over an 8-year-old and claimed his cat would be sad if he was deported, and he won his case.
And I think also our civil service has been totally infiltrated.
Yeah, it's completely...
And the BBC by certain agents, and they've taken it over.
And the activist lawyers and the NGOs, which are constantly working against the British people, and just in terms of working against justice, it seems.
I mean, I'll tell you what I find. I have a generally quite good view of George Soros, simply because the Open Society Institute funded a lot of university debating in Eastern Europe when I was on the debating scene. So I don't want to decry the man, but it is true to say that he funds people who literally go out telling people at the border between the United Kingdom and France how to lie to pretend to be a child.
And the government does as well. Lots of these organisations are funded directly by the state.
Yes. I find the whole thing...
I remember Douglas Murray's talking about we've got actual former Hamas leaders and people from all kinds of groups. I mean, there was that group that was... a lot of groups that are allowed here are prescribed in other countries.
Oh, yeah.
Islamic countries, you know, they get kicked out. The guy that blew up, the kid that blew up at the Manchester Arena, had been thrown out. Was it
Salman
Libya or
Abedi?
Lebanon? Yeah, they kick out and they come here.
Our old friend Jihadi John Mohammed Emwazi. I mean, his family business is terrorism, and they're all over here. By the way, just in case you're wondering about Jihadi John, who ate a cruise missile for lunch one day, which was very well deserved as far as I was concerned. But look, his family did a right to buy £1 million flat in Westminster. Congratulations to terrorists. I just want to ask the viewers and listeners, how many of you were handed £1 million flat by the British state? Well, the terrorists all get them, and Mohammed Emwazi went into the family business, like most people do. Just absolutely astonishing. Anyway, 0344 499 1000 if you're as outraged as the McGovern. Look at her face. Look at her face. The McGovern's furious. Come on, just express that fury now.
I'm very angry. Can you see it?
Does it? Look, I get into trouble all the time on this channel for calling the viewers and listeners idiots, but I include myself in that. Do you feel like an idiot when you go to university, you work hard your entire life, admittedly, you're relatively young, and you see the bad people get all the benefits? I mean, you couldn't walk into Matrix Chambers and get £1 million worth of legal aid to fight the government. The terrorists will.
I mean, it would be nice, but no, it feels like they're getting everything handed to them. But then, if you're speaking about university as well, I mean, I was barely there. It was all on Zoom, online.
Yeah,
I feel like I barely got an education.
I've not been in this year.
Haven't you?
No, I just do it on Zoom.
But COVID's finished now, so they just carry on.
Systems are broken.
It's like this civil service one going on strike, the Land Registry, because they want to be able to work from home forever now.
My favourite one is Slough Council, where what's his name, Fatty Swindlehurst, James Swindlehurst, built them a new town hall that cost $35 million, and then allowed everyone to work from home. And they said you got into the place, it was like the Marie Celeste. There was absolutely nobody there. Okay, look, 0344 499 1000. We're coming back with the press preview with me, Anna and Jess, and of course Led.
And should Trump invade Greenland? Apparently he's mentioned.
Come on.
I think let's do it. Let's go.
Come on, let's have Greenland. Come on. We'll explain a little bit about this. It's not as stupid as you might think. But press preview is coming up. 0344 499 1000. I can see that we've got one slot free. Also at Virtual Ash.
At Andre J.P. Walker.
Get me on YouTube.
Across the UK, on DAB+, On your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview on Talk with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. We're also joined by our guest co-hosts today. They are Jess Gill, political commentator, and Anna McGovern, political commentator. We're going to have to come up with something more interesting than that. But it has to be said, both of you have experienced some of the problems that we've seen with these grooming gangs. Jess, you're from Bolton, and Anna was chased down the streets by
hell?
Yeah.
And he got to court and deported.
He, after about, I think it was almost 2 years, but eventually, after a long process, he did get deported.
That is good.
Well, let's go through the press preview, because I'm sure there's going to be stuff about grooming gangs.
Don't forget Mike Graham's on. It's just after 5. If you're listening in the morning, there he is going past. He's got the Kellogg's multi-pack today.
And he's going to eat them all.
Rice Krispies, nice one. Yeah. Right, the Daily Mirror. Let's start with the Daily Mirror. And they're already beginning their lawfare, and they want to bring in laws. Musk hate probe. Elon Musk's vile rants are being probed by counter-extremism unit to see if they create a risk for Britain. It's not counter-extremism. He hurt Jess Phillips' feelings, which is a priority. Never mind the poor white working-class girls getting raped. He's endangered Jess Phillips' security.
But this is a prelude to preventing him coming to Britain, isn't it?
But the thing is, if they do, and they'll try and go for social media, but now what will happen, because they're all big American companies, if they start attacking and making less free speech than the States have said, Trump has said, they'll put sanctions on us.
Well, can I tell you something? I've already got my plan. My YouTube channel, which has 115,000 followers, will simply move to the Irish Republic, which is where YouTube Europe is based. So if the British government wish to regulate us out of existence, I will hop on a £50 Ryanair flight, get myself a flat, and just come back for these shows.
Joe Mulhall,
do that.
Joe Mulhall of Hope Not Hate said Musk is an international extremist. I mean, Hope Not Hate. What do you think?
Oh, don't get me started on Hope Not Hate. Honestly, they are the enemies. They are the enemy of the British people.
They're probably watching now.
Just to be clear on Hope Not Hate, not Hope, or Hope Not Hate. Yeah, my one's Hate Not Hope.
That's more accurate.
But the reality is about them, what they are is a group of left-wing activists who use the title fascist or racist or Nazi in order to smear their political opponents.
They are the fascists.
Oh, 100%.
They literally tried to silence the mother of, I think her name's Charlene Downs, the one who got turned into kebab meat, I think.
Yeah.
They ran a campaign against her. How awful do you have to be to do that?
Just to explain, this was the case, I think, in Blackpool, of the way that they got rid of this grooming victim's body was to kebab it.
It's awful.
And the case collapsed on a technicality, and they all were set free, I think, in that case.
Yeah, I'm not.
I mean, to serve. Up
that was the rumour. I don't think that was
in
ever
fact,
proven,
actually, I've just realised. This is both on the late night show and early breakfast. It's probably distasteful to talk. I mean, actually, where are we getting to as a country where even to describe what happened to this girl is so offensive that we're just going to have to stop the conversation?
Well, that's why they do. I mean, that's why they say, you're racist. This is offensive, and it was unbelievable. Keir Starmer doubling down on it the other day with that speech, saying you're far right if you want an inquiry. What do you think, Anna?
And the fact as well that he forced all of Labour to actually vote against having a national inquiry into this, I just think it's despicable. Shame on them.
Most of the MPs for those areas voted against it.
By the way, the other thing about this Children's Act and Homeschooling Act, it takes away your right to homeschool if you are deemed... So, first of all, if you want to homeschool, you now have to seek the permission of your local authority. And if you are unsuitable, then you're not allowed to do it. I wonder whether unsuitable will actually be extremists, or will they be UKIP members? Will they be Brexiteers? Will they be Christians? Will they be people...
Far right. That's what I was
and I'll tell you one thing, most people don't homeschool, but if you want schools and teachers to run riot, the homeschooling thing, which is the nuclear option, has now been taken off the table. Because if you turn around today and say, if you tell my child to amputate their genitals, I will take them out of school and homeschool, you can do it. From next year, they'll say, no, we're not going to let you do that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, it's honestly ridiculous how woke school has become. It's literally infected every single subject. I remember when I was at sixth form college and we were celebrating World Pronouns Day. We were celebrating transgenderism.
You don't learn anything about British history apart from the bad, bad things.
My favourite school story, and we'll get back to the papers in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get back to Musk.
Which I think is absolute genius, is this. I had a friend of mine who was the head of computing at Eton College, and he discovered the following ruse. When you go to Eton College, you've got to have your computer, and there's no Wi-Fi. What you do is you connect it to the school network by an Ethernet cable. Right, OK. However, some little bright spark went to the local Asian shopkeeper and said to him, look, why don't you buy the best internet pipe you can get and have a Wi-Fi so strong it covers the whole school, and we'll all pay you £2 each a week. And basically, this bloke was turning over like £1,000 a week. And they said, when they happened upon this, there was terabytes of filth being broadcast into the school. Like, literally what had happened was every teenage boy in the school shut the door and then accessed this internet. And they just said every variety of dirt was just being broadcast straight into Eton College. Anyway, let's get
Good
back.
morning, there's Mike. Lucky he didn't hear that, but he'll be on after us in an hour. But back to Elon Musk. All right, he shoots his mouth off, but he's a doer, isn't he? That's why he's got rockets landing back down, because he just says things he doesn't think. But he's done a very good thing, hasn't he, bringing this back into
I think it's incredibly important, actually. You know, you've got some people online saying, oh, Elon Musk should just stay out of British politics. But I think we should be promoting free speech.
Well, he's done a great thing.
Exactly, he's brought it to light.
Anna, I don't want... I mean, it's a little unfair to ask you to read his mind, but there is a debate about this, and I don't mind which of this is, whether he's a genuine believer or somebody who's just stirring things up because he's genuinely fearful that free speech is under attack. I mean, he bought X just in order to maintain free speech. And there is a theory that he's just saying things that other people won't say in order to protect freedom. What do you think he's doing?
No, you know what? I disagree with that. I think he actually believes in those principles.
I agree, yeah.
You know, the fact that he brought X for a start to protect free speech even further, which it's not perfect. There are still things that need to be ironed out. There's been some people that have been randomly suspended with no warning, just, lost their account. There are little, quirks like that need to be figured out quite quickly. However, I think the fact that Elon Musk is speaking up on those issues, we've seen as well, he's been backing reform. Again, reform is not a perfect party. No. But he's been getting behind them. He's been speaking up on those crucial issues, and people are resonating with that message. And I think that's only something.
I'll tell you what, I really liked. I really liked the Nick Clegg idea. Of monitoring, which is that all of the bans that were put in by Facebook could be appealed to an independent arbitration panel. And to be fair, the first thing they did was unbanned Trump and Tommy Robinson. Because
they've reversed that now. Zuckerberg, he's got rid of Clegg and he's reversed it because they've seen what's happened with Twitter, and Musk was saying Twitter's led the way. Now it's just going to be controlled by the community.
Does anyone go on Facebook anymore?
No, only older people.
Older people that there's a lot of residents in their local communities that use those pages to discuss.
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah. I'm still on MySpace. It's fantastic.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I was quite happy with the message that Mark Zuckerberg gave out, but then what I question as well is, will it go far enough?
But here is the other thing, and talking about the front page of the Mirror, I was watching Douglas Murray talk, and he claimed that Britain was unique in this respect, that we're obsessed with shooting the messenger. Right, this front page is Musk hate probe, which basically, should we ban Elon Musk from the UK? No. Is Elon Musk right? It's
yes.
The whole. I find that very offensive. I just think he's a load of old.
Well, he'll be part of the government of America soon, so they'll have to take him in.
And I think that's why Blue Sky was created as well. Those people who got offended, and they were like, I don't want to see this on my page. Well, if you don't want to see that content, then don't go on Twitter.
They don't like free speech unless it's just their side.
The other thing is this I'm receiving death threats. I mean, somebody tweets me going, if I see you in the street, I'll thump you. They don't really mean it.
Yeah, get over that. There's girls being raped right now and groomed. This is terrible, and she's just worried about her own feelings.
Somebody walked up to me once and said, let me tell you, he said, you're Andre Walker, aren't you? I hate you. I said, well, I like you too. And he said, if I ever see you in the National Liberal Club, I'll thump you. And I went, what if you see me somewhere else? And he stopped for a second, he went, no, I won't. I went, it's just hard to understand where you're going with this.
What I found very interesting was when Jess Phillips did a interview with a national broadcaster, and they were actually hiding the replies on X. So anyone that was criticising Jess Phillips or the decision, you know, the fact that, you know, people are highlighting the failures that her government made that was under her jurisdiction, people were criticising her, and they were actually hiding.
But here's what I don't understand. Here's what I don't understand, and I get frustrated with all this hate probe. The left have been pushing this idea of people who turn a blind eye to child abuse, who are in positions of trust, can be criminally prosecuted for it. All Elon Musk has done is backed that proposal. But the point is, they weren't expecting the people in the firing line to be Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer. That's the problem.
And he called them far right because he thought, oh, well, that worked last time, it'll shut it down this time. But he knew there'd be a big kick-off, so he must be really hiding something. And obviously he was out of the DPP at the time when it was all splashed on the Times, and he's going to go, oh, well, it didn't cross my desk. Well, you were the boss, so you're negligent then anyway.
Jess, can I ask you this question? When I was a kid, people used to be genuinely afraid, white people used to be genuinely afraid of being branded racist or far right. Does anyone give a toss anymore? I just feel that those terms are now so debased. I mean, look, racist just means you disagree with the political left. Far right means you have an accent and don't like uncontrolled immigration. They don't mean anything anymore. I mean, I feel sorry for people who are genuine victims of racism, because if you cry racism now, everyone just rolls their eyes. Am I right?
Yeah, I think having grown up in a generation where everything was called racist, the snowflake generation, where someone like PewDiePie, the YouTuber, was called racist for just making a joke.
I can't believe anybody called PewDiePie.
He's so wholesome. But I think we've got to a point where it's just like, no, I reject your framework. I reject this framing of racism or non-racist. Instead, I want to go beyond that. I want to reframe it into something where we don't care about that.
But see, I will say this to you, Anna and Jess, and I hate it when people go, in our day, but Asher and I did not grow up in a country where race was the #1 political issue. I mean, it is now.
But that's caused the racism, the identity. Well, we were all getting on 20, 30 years ago. There was never a problem with any, you know, Muslims or other... Everyone... There was obviously, there were a few riots here and there, but actually people were just people, and there was a sort of meritocracy and then all this DEI stuff.
I'll tell you what I was going to say, Asher. Look, the front page...
I just want to cover the firefight of their lives, because this is to do with DEI, because they got DEI hires at the fire department, and they didn't clear the brush. There was no water in the tanks, but they've got, oh, look, they've got a trans lesbian is the chief and talking. So it matters what you do in the bedroom rather than actually making sure you can put the fires out.
I just want to, before we go to the break, I'm just going to leave something hanging, and I'm not going to make any comments about it. These fires that are happening in California, Meghan Markle has been evacuated from her £11 million mansion, which may burn down. I'll just leave it there. We'll be back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is the late show. Sorry, it's not. This is the press preview with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. It runs in the evening and on early breakfast. We're going through all of the front pages with Anna McGovern and Jess Gill. OK, what's next, Asher?
The Daily... Oh, look, there's Mike. He's having his Cocoa Pops. Yeah, I like the way they turn the milk brown. Jihadi bride could run free within days. That's on the front of Daily Express. Guards set to release Shamima Begum as Syrian camp comes under attack. The thing is, could she actually claim asylum in the UK? Would there be any way around that? I don't think she'd get accepted, but anyway, here it goes. Shamima Begum could run free within days as the guards holding the Jihadi bride and thousands of ISIS terrorists in a Syrian refugee camp come under attack. I thought these lot were ISIS who've taken over Syria. In the past 24 hours, the Kurdish-led Syrian... the Kurds are around down there. They've been running detention centres and have been hit by Turkish airstrikes who are attacking the Kurds. I heard Trump was saying he's going to get in there, the USA. What do you think about all this?
Well, just one very quick side comment. One of the producers pointed it out earlier. Whoever made this front page, it looks like we're talking about Kate over here. So, Jihadi bride, we got Kate.
I think it was her birthday, wasn't it?
That reminds me of
what is this?
The Jihadi bride, Kate.
That reminds me of the Wigan Observer, when I just happened to be stood there, and there was two stories on the same page. One of them was James Grundy, who later became the MP for Lee, winning a council seat, and the other was the BNP being defeated in Wigan, in Hindley. And there was a big picture of me, and it said Labour see your far-right threat. I was like, I've got nothing to do with it.
Oh, no.
But this Shamima thing, I mean, it's really clear, as I understand it, that a lot of people based on their nationality would be on one side of the Islamic State or the other. A lot of the Americans encountered the Syrian army. The Syrian army just didn't take any prisoners. The Kurds did. And so there remain a large number of people from places like Britain and Sweden who are, you know, just in Kurdish prison camps. The reality is the Kurds are going to be eradicated for two reasons. It's slightly confusing. Number one, they're anti-ISIS, but number two, they're anti-Turkey, because most of Kurdistan is in Turkey. Therefore, they're now being hammered from both sides. So she is going to be freed. My view remains, don't know what you think, that we should reiterate what we've always said. She's welcome to go to the consulate in Ankara if she can walk all the way there, which is 800 miles.
I mean, she's welcome to do that, but she's certainly not welcome back in the UK. You know, we've had these conversations happening for years now where people have said, you know, she came from the UK, we should welcome her back, she should be tried in the UK. No, you made a decision, Shamima Begum.
I'll tell you what we should do. We should drop her off a dinghy and say, sail to Bangladesh.
We should have been a four-star hotel, but there's a big Christian population in Syria, so it's not over there. And just a little story. Reeves fleeing to China during the crisis. That's just in the top left there. And, by
the way, can I just say on that previous point, sorry to interrupt, but what absolute scumbags turn up, you know, travel from the East End of London to the Middle East to tell local Jewish and Christian groups that they're crusaders who've lived there for like 10,000 years or something. But anyway...
Yeah, so anyway, Reeves fled to China in this crisis. Apparently this is worse than the Liz Truss debacle. And, the pound's plummeted across the world. The economy is looking like it's going to go back to the early 70s. Companies aren't investing. She's going to have to go back on her promise for not raising taxes. And she's looking like, well, her days are numbered, but he'll keep her on, won't we? Because he can blame it on her. But what do you think her future is and the future of our economy is?
Yeah, I was going to say it makes sense she goes to China, considering her economic policy is quite fit in with
communist friends are there. Yeah,
exactly. But no, it has been honestly a massive disgrace. Labour have promised to make the country better, to improve the country, and they've just failed time and time again. They've only been in for how long, like 6 months about?
It feels like years, doesn't it?
Does.
But everyone knew that budget was a load of bunkum, and it was a growth budget. It obviously wasn't.
I've never known a government but this unpopular. It feels like, you know what it feels like? 8 years in. where you're like, oh, for God's sake, when's the general election so we can get rid of
and
this
you sort of don't think he is Prime Minister, but he doesn't feel like he's the Prime Minister.
He's risen without trace.
You never see him.
Absolutely not. And they keep banging on about this plan for change. We're doing it.
Well, he has done that. It's changed, hasn't it? Change.
The plan.
I think Dr. David Starkey said that the reality is what Rachel Reeves' problem is that she wanted to Keynesian style just throw in billions and billions and billions at stupid public work schemes. She just didn't have the money, and that's it.
It's called communism, isn't it? Anyway, The Guardian. World temperature overshoot 1.5 degrees Paris deal limit for the first time. I don't know what that is. Data shows 2024 was the hottest year on record. You could have told me. You couldn't have told me that. A climate breakdown drove the annual global temperature above the internationally agreed 1.5% limit for the first time last year, supercharging extreme weather and causing misery to millions. So, that's obviously another ruse they're trying on.
Can I say something else about the front page of The Guardian? And I don't know if I'm going to upset people and get into trouble. You know, it was the state funeral of Jimmy Carter today. Somebody needs to point out he was a terrible president. I mean, I accept he was a good bloke. I accept that he was
left one term, didn't he?
Yeah, I accept that he was a nice person, that he taught at Sunday school. But I watched Sky News today, and it was like Pravda. It was like, he was a great. He wasn't. He was crap. He was crap.
That's why he only got one term.
When he went to communist Poland, he took an interpreter who couldn't speak Polish and accidentally translated what he said as, "I've abandoned the United States of America, never to return." The Kremlin thought he defected with Air Force One, right? I mean, he did a marathon and collapsed halfway through. I mean, the Iranians took a load of American hostages. They were arguing for potentially an invasion. He did nothing and didn't get them back. Look,
they released them the day after Reagan got in.
I accept he was a nice bloke, but somebody in the British media has to point out he was a terrible president. Yeah. And actually, I'll tell you something, and I don't know if you agree on this, but I feel that the reason why it's been wall-to-wall coverage of what a nice man Jimmy Carter is, there's a subtle bit here, which is, let's stick it to Donald Trump on Sky. Because there were people saying, this was the last of an era, an honourable president, somebody who told the truth, and all these things that they've ascribed to this man, which I think it is a massive attack on Trump, isn't it?
I agree. I mean, obviously Jimmy Carter's probably a little bit before our time, but then
you weren't missing much.
No, but I wonder. So if we were talking in the future about Donald Trump, God forbid, but for having died, I wonder how they would portray that differently when they talk about would they be celebrating him as a president?
They do exactly what they did with Margaret Thatcher, which is they'll bring on all of the supporters of Donald Trump and then a fair number. And now, but she was a controversial figure, wasn't she? Wasn't he? Al Gore. Yeah, he was an absolute nightmare. I'm sorry he's dead. I'm not. It'd be like that. If Tony Blair died tomorrow, God forbid, you would have wall-to-wall positive coverage. If John Major died, we would. Well, maybe not John Major because he was a big communist and Tony Blair. But if a genuine concern, if Norman Tebbit died, it would be controversial. It wouldn't say he was a fighter pilot who survived the Brighton bomb, stuck with his wife even though she was heavily disabled. It wouldn't say any of that. It would go, he was a famed racist or something like that.
By the way, in the picture, they've all the presidents and vice presidents have all got their hands on their heart, but Trump has it on his stomach. So I don't know what
he was looking forward to the wake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And another story about Reeves. Reeves considers deeper cuts in spending.
No, she doesn't. That's not true.
Reeves is considering imposing steeper cuts to public services. That's just a load.
No, I'm sorry. Let's just be clear. The Guardian is saying that Rachel Reeves is considering public spending cuts. That is fake news.
That's the Labour in-house paper saying that.
And I'm going to say this to Guardian. They knew or ought to have known that there is not a remote chance, cat-in-hell chance, that Labour's going to cut public spending.
The Daily Telegraph again with Reeves. Reeves missing in action on debt crisis. Yes, she's taking a leaf out of Keir Starmer. Just get out, and if they can't see you, if they can't see you, they can't have a go at you. That's what she thinks. And this is the story about Andy Burnham. The Mayor of Manchester breaks ranks with PM to back a grooming gang inquiry. Andy Burnham has defied Sir Keir Starmer to call for a national inquiry into grooming gangs. Is this because, you know, he's worried about the next election. He's looking at his.
Or is
he making a move for Prime Minister?
I think it's different because Andy Burnham is in an almost unique position where he absolutely cannot be blamed for covering up grooming gangs. First of all, Lee has virtually no ethnic minority population, or at least it didn't until fairly recently. There will presumably be no grooming gangs there. Secondly, he was basically the sports minister. Thirdly, when he first became Mayor of Greater Manchester, there was a separate police and crime commissioner who did cover it up and is now dead, Tony Lloyd.
They were put under special measures.
So actually, if you were to look at any senior Labour politician who it almost certainly will not be smeared, will not be attacked for covering up grooming gangs, Burnham's probably there. So he's probably thinking, let's dig right in, because let's be clear, he can deal with Sadiq relatively easily. I read the violence against women and girls thing that Sadiq Khan produced. It didn't mention grooming, but also Sadiq Khan called for Kemi Badenoch to apologise for dog whistle politics, dog whistle racism, for claiming grooming gangs were real.
Yeah.
It gets worse, doesn't it? It just gets worse. And, you know, people have been writing to me saying, please, can you stop talking about this? Because everything I hear makes me more angry.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I was just going to add to that as well. What my question is why did Keir Starmer go to all of those Labour MPs and tell them they have to vote against this inquiry, the grooming gang?
Because he was head of the DPP and he doesn't want that to come out.
He does not want it to come out. What have you got to hide?
I thought Kemi Badenoch, who might actually be good. I originally thought she was probably pretty terrible, but I thought she made an excellent point after Starmer made an excellent point. At PMQ, Starmer said, look, I'm the former Director of Public Prosecutions. Let me tell you, we've already had these reviews, but do you know how hard it is with victims of sexual abuse to corral them together? Many of them have emotional, mental health problems. Many of them don't want to give evidence. It's going to be really hard to get them all together. It'll take years to do that. Which I thought was a brilliant point, and undoubtedly true, until Kemi came back and said, yeah, but you have to understand, we're not necessarily interested in the perpetrators and the victims. This inquiry is about which of you lot let them do it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that blows Starmer to bits, doesn't it?
I don't want to give Kemi too much credit, though. I do think there is some political point scoring on an issue that really shouldn't be dealt in that situation. I mean, Kemi Badenoch, wasn't she like Women and Equalities Minister under the Conservatives? Again, we're almost forgetting that the Conservative Party has been in government for the past decade.
Jenrick, I'll tell you what Robert Jenrick said on Sky News, which I thought also was a reasonable point. He said, as this has developed, you know, you need to move forward with it. He said, look, we did get Alexis Jay, we did get Maggie Oliver to look at these things. Now we're at the point now where we need a public inquiry, and they don't want it because they know it didn't come over my desk is not going to wash in a public inquiry.
Well, it's negligence, isn't it? If you're the boss and it doesn't...
Well,
it was on the front page of the Times while he was there, splashed all over the front page. Our colleagues at the Times...
By the way,
it's not plausible.
By the way, lest we forget what Labour did in 2003, many of you will have forgotten, Channel 4 wanted to do a documentary on grooming gangs, and the Labour Party successfully lobbied for it to happen after the local elections, to be delayed until after the local elections, because they didn't want it to boost the far right.
I mean, this is such a big story, and it has been for years. Panorama have never done anything. They've done the opposite. It's all fake, this grooming guns, and Channel 4.
I mean, it's been going on before. Like, I was born, probably you as well.
No, not Anna. She's.
Do you remember the guy ridiculed Muslimic ray guns?
Yeah.
So literally, he was ridiculed for being the stupidest man in Britain, and even he knew that there was
the stupidest man in Britain.
It just shows how out of touch.
But that news report, which everybody's watched, is people are angry, but they don't know why. And he was inarticulate. He was drunk, but he didn't even know that they weren't called Muslimic. But he said there are Muslimic rape gangs.
I didn't know he was drunk.
I mean, he appeared to be.
I don't know. I think there is just general disdain among towards the working class from the mainstream establishment. Again, it's like if you have a funny northern accent, I feel like you are kind of. But
somebody made this point about our friend Tommy Robinson and others. Well, hang on a second. These people, and it's not just him, there's thousands of people like him, have gone to the police because one of their family has been raped and the police have ignored them. They've gone to their local MP and been ignored. They've gone to social workers and been ignored. They've gone to, you know, and then when they go on the protest, everyone calls them far right. What are they meant to do? Their children have been systematically raped. The police don't want to help them. The Crown Prosecution Service don't want to help them. And when they stand up with a placard going, "Stop raping my child," everyone goes, "You're a far-right racist."
Yeah, especially when Keir Starmer turns around and said, "You're joining the far-right bandwagon." How offensive is that for people speaking up on these critical issues? They're scared and they want answers. And to be called far-right for that
Well, I'll tell you something. If I had a choice of who to be in with, a millionaire lawyer from Matrix Chambers who became Director of Public Prosecutions, who let hundreds of rapists off, who let Mohammed Al-Fayed off, who let Jimmy Savile off, if I can be mates with him, or a father who in desperation picks up a placard and stands outside Bolton Town Hall saying, "Stop people raping my child," I'm with him every day of the week. More next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hang on a second.
Silence.
Right, okay. So people knew that sort of one of the listeners was a bit poor and we sent them some money. Anyway, okay. So this is.
He wants a direct debit now.
He does. He's phoned me about 8 times. Phil in Worthing, stop.
Oh, that's Mike Graham. He's on after us.
Yeah.
He's got a few quid.
Yeah, he's doing all right. Okay, this is the press preview with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. We're joined today by Anna McGovern and Jess Gill. Both of them are, unfortunately, have some knowledge of the level of harassment that young women are going through because of uncontrolled immigration. I'm truly sorry for that.
I think most women do at this point.
I'm truly sorry for that.
I don't see anyone who does. I mean, Alex Phillips talked about it, didn't she?
Yeah.
It's just,
and it really resonated with so many people.
Yeah, and luckily you've mainly got away apart from that terrible story you said, Anna, but, you know, you hear some terrible stories. Anyway, the Telegraph, just last bit on there. Badenoch, unions have taken back control in Labour. Britain is back under union control, Badenoch has warned, speaking to the Telegraph. As she visited an academy, the Tory leader said Plans proved Sir Keir Starmer was bowing to union demands. Well, we knew that when he came into power and just
Britain now.
With pro quo.
Britain now is like the Soviet Union in the following respects. It's not like the Soviet Union in every respect, obviously, but in the following respect.
They'd like it to be.
There is now basically a bloated public sector that we all have to venerate. You know, if they work 3 days a week, let's go out and clap them. Well done, lads. But also, the governing party is not the party of Labour. It's the party of the public sector. And so basically the country is now run for the sake of public sector workers. The public sector is run by the public sector, fairly obviously, and its political control is the public sector.
It was Ed Miliband that made that terribly worse, didn't he? When, do you remember they changed the union vote for the Labour Party?
Yes.
And that's when they really basically
I want to give you, Asher, I want to give you that water.
Thanks, Mel.
Well away from the machines.
Again, in the Times now, the soar-away Times, and Burnham support for grooming inquiry piles pressure on PM. We've already talked about that. Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, wants a grooming gang or rape gang inquiry. Drivers play fast and loose with target speed limits. The majority of drivers view speed limits as a target rather than a rule.
Well, can I tell you something?
If you go too slow, that's very annoying.
Can I tell you
speed limit?
Can I tell you something? A lot of countries have a driving offence of failure to make progress.
Well, in this country, if you go too slow, you'll get done.
If you see these little grannies driving at 15 miles an hour, they snarl up all the roads. I'm not joking.
No, it's true, and it's actually very dangerous on the motorways. And Rattled Reeves searches for new ideas on growth. I think that's why she's been to China. Chancellor asks Cabinet for fresh plans as cost of borrowing surpasses peak under trust. But she should know how to do it. She's an economist.
No, she isn't.
She wasn't. No, she made the tea in the Halifax computer department.
I still maintain the stupidest thing about Rachel Reeves is this. Right. H-boss economists virtually destroyed the British economy. The people in the retail bit were all right. Why pretend to be an economist? Surely the economist should be pretending. What Rachel Reeves actually did was not a complete disaster. What she claimed to have done was be part of the worst economic disaster in the modern history of this country.
And now she's presiding over the worst economic disaster in this country. Basically, Rachel Reeves has told Cabinet colleagues to draft alternative plans to boost growth amid concerns that market turmoil was derailing. I mean, Keir Starmer asked for that. They're meant to have the ideas themselves. I mean, what do you think? They can't run an economy, can they?
No, they cannot. And we've seen this with the Conservatives as well. They completely broke the economy, especially with lockdowns and everything. And we're just seeing a downward spiral from there. I personally don't trust a single thing that comes out of their mouths. No. And people are having enough of the Labour Party. You know what? I think a general election could not come soon enough.
And who do you think would win, though? Because there'd be another split with the Tories and Reform.
I think so. To be fair, I think Reform need more time. I don't think they're perfect. No. Some people may know I actually recently joined Reform, despite my criticism of them. I think there's a lot of internal things that they need to work out before they are able to actually run this country. But give them time.
I do think, much as I love Ben Habib, I do think he's been slightly unfair because this whole criticism of the internal structure of Reform accepts that it's not sustainable. And Reform's official line is, we did this because we had to set up quickly. But
well, then fix it, then. If that's what if the members are asking for this,
but they didn't have any members.
Well, okay.
They now have.
Fair enough, then.
I mean, where are they up to? I'll tell you what, Ash, you keep talking, I'll go to the membership ticker.
Yeah, I think the second biggest party in terms of membership now.
Yeah. Well, that's still only 70,000 or something, and that's nothing compared to the electorate.
Yeah, wasn't it like in the 80s when there were like 1 million Labour voters, and now everyone just seems to be so politically disengaged nowadays?
Well, Starmer apparently today said to someone that he thinks Farage could become the next Prime Minister.
Yeah, he said like there's a 25% chance, which is weird to say from Starmer.
I think he was hopeful, right? I think he wants to go. I think he's had enough of it, hasn't he?
He doesn't look like he's enjoying himself.
The Asher Gould theory, and actually I quite like this, is that because Keir Starmer's had such an easy ride, when he got in and became Prime Minister, he's actually now got to do some serious work, and he hates the job.
Yeah, he must hate it. I mean, he won't even go out because people call him terrible names, don't they? And rightfully so.
Remember when he got chased by that pub owner?
Oh, yeah, got thrown out the pub.
Yeah.
Get out my pub, get it. Yeah, and that was when he was just in opposition. But then he went to the horse races and he got sworn at, and he went to lay the wreath at the Southport and the parents. I mean, it was just such a bad look.
Who actually likes him at this point? I don't even think his own party likes him.
Even his own wife doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. Don't mention the wife. No. I mentioned it. I think I got away with it.
I earn more than my boyfriend. So what? And this is a story I read about it earlier. Apparently, if you're in a relationship and the woman earns more, it demasculates the man and it can cause major problems. What do you think about it? I'm all for it. What do young ladies think about that?
You know what? I think what I've personally seen from some of my friends as well is actually women on that. Now, okay, please tell me if I'm wrong here, but more women are actually starting to, take over men and earn more than men.
Women are actually better paid than men.
They still want you to buy dinner, though, don't they?
The feminists will tell you otherwise. They will tell you otherwise.
The reason is because obviously it's women scaling back on jobs after having kids and having children. Literally leaving to have children and maternity leave and part-time working or whatever. So in order to make those stats look the same, you have to overpay women in full-time employment. So in general, women are better paid than men.
I think a part of it is also because of women tend to go towards more manager roles, whereas men, because of the bell curve, either they're really bright and really successful, or they're just,
Stupid.
Working class. They have like.
All right, love. Let's not. Don't hose the audience.
What's wrong with the working class, Jeff?
I can't believe that. So, A, you're from Bolton, right? B, like, they might be stupid like the working class.
I did not say and complain.
Unbelievable.
Who do you think's on the other end of this bloody radio, you idiot?
I love the working class. But what I was going to say is...
Do you know she's from Bolton? She's from Bolton. She's never even been to the Phoenix Club.
Yeah, I have no clue what that is still.
I think it's called St Gregory's in Farnworth, isn't it?
I know Farnworth, I don't know St Gregory's.
I used to be a mobile DJ around there.
Why?
I played the Phoenix.
Really?
Yeah, my brother set up a mobile DJing business and then moved to Cyprus, and it was bequeathed to me, even though I didn't want it.
Well, I think the way that modern society is set up now, I don't think a man should necessarily feel demasculated if his partner's earning more, because I think it's actually unfairly probably skewed more towards women. I think it's correct to say that women are probably more going for those managerial roles. They're pushed into these, sort of careerist avenues where
Listen,
I've got to be...
Can I tell you, in my experience, that what you have to do if you want to avoid demasculating your man, just fill the fridge with beer, give him a steak and chips, and stick Sky Sports on.
And pay him a good monthly wage.
That's it.
Give him an allowance.
By the way, and this is a function of the fact we're in a media studio. Somebody's asked, what if the bloke is a teetotal vegetarian? Divorce him, obviously.
What's he doing?
Obviously, if you've married a feeble communist, then you need rid of him.
Why were you with him in the first place?
Exactly. Oh, look at my man. He's a vegan communist who's concerned about global poverty. Get rid of him.
But I think there still is an expectation for men to foot the bill when it comes to paying for dates and all that stuff, which makes it tough when women are earning more. It's like, why should you do that? But on the same side, like, I've been in relationships in the past when not only am I paying the bill, but I'm making them food and then mum at that point.
Yeah, but can I tell you my pull technique? Right, I've got to tell you this, my pull technique, right? So, everybody has a percentage of attractive people that would go with them, right? If you are a bloke and you're basically ugly, right, then probably only 5% of women will go with you. So that means you need to get round 20 in a night. You can't buy them dinner and get round 20. What you need to do is you need to...
Fill up.
So my chat-up line was always this. Oh my God, you're almost hot enough to date someone as amazing as me. Now, the big advantage of that is...
Never fails, that, by the way. Never fails.
No.
Really?
No. Let me tell you, it does fail a lot. But that means you can get round the 20 people, right? Because what it does is it separates the wheat from the chaff quickly, right? So if you get 10 slaps, remember, a slap only takes 10 seconds. So now you can focus on the people that don't slap you, and then you can get round...
You'll have a red cheek.
But you can get round 20 people quickly. And I would suggest to you, you've got to remember, if you've got to chat up 20 birds in one night, can't buy them all a drink. There's no time.
Oh,
right? You've got to sift them out before you buy them a drink.
I'd definitely be slapping.
More dating advice tomorrow. Anyway, the Metro and swathes of city ravaged by flames are Los Angeles. And I had some firefighter who was, I think he was talking to Trump or someone, saying that this could actually destroy, and in the future it may just literally go to the ocean and destroy the whole of Los Angeles. And basically it's because of the DEI hires. There were no water in the hydrants. They left the brush all over the forests, and they want to save this little fish, so they diverted a load of water that would have been there to save a little 3-inch fish called the smelt. And now Los Angeles, the fish has been saved though, so that's good. Apart from
I have to say to you, knowing about the plight of the smelt and its relationship with firefighting policy in Los Angeles is almost obscure enough for me to have known it.
You knew about that?
I didn't.
Well, it's the same with the new tiering with building, isn't it?
I think why don't we go to a break now, and then we'll be back with the Daily Star.
Our Daily Star.
Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, I've got to say to you, if what you were attempting to do was avoid a conspiracy theory, the royal family, don't send Prince Andrew's daughter to the World Economic Forum, because that's got it all. That's got it all. Beatrice should not go.
She was the one that advised him to do the Emily Maitlis interview.
So what we've decided is to send Prince Andrew's daughter and Rachel Reeves to the World Economic Forum. There are tinfoil hats exploding.
What can go wrong there?
OK, this is the press preview with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and our guest co-hosts are Anna McGovern and Jess Gill. If you're listening to this on Early Breakfast, Mike Graham is up in about 11 minutes' time. If you're listening on Thursday nights, then we're going to be taking your calls in a couple of moments.
And it's a great show. Keep tuned for that. The Daily Star. Lettuce, who crashed the economy, tells bloke who is crashing the economy, don't say I crashed the economy. And she sent a cease and desist letter, which is quite unusual. It's never been
I worry about this, that politicians are going to start suing each other for defamation. To be specific, Liz Truss is contending that because Keir Starmer said that she crashed the economy. She lost her parliamentary seat, and she's suggesting that he might be liable for her salary that she lost as a result of losing her parliamentary seat.
And endangering future
Without being funny, that is plainly ludicrous.
Yeah, the Crimea River, seriously.
She did sort of crash the economy, although she blames the banks and the city. She might be right there.
Jess, if we get into a situation where saying, you know, Bob Jones crashed the economy is defamatory, and you can sue someone for losing your parliamentary seats, that will cause significant problems, won't it?
Absolutely. I think Liz Truss should just own what happened. She was the Prime Minister at the time. She was completely responsible for what happened. And I think blaming other people isn't the way forward. I agree with a lot of Liz Truss's economic policies. I'm a free marketeer. But I think she does need to take responsibility and stop blaming
didn't the city crash it to get rid of her?
Yeah.
I think there was a bit of that involved.
I think there is a bit of that, but at the end of the day, she was the one in charge. She should be able to control the narrative.
But we like to tax, you know, the way she was going to cut tax, and I'd like to give her a chance, don't you think?
I went to an event the other day, right, and you know, I love the person involved, but I did think it was a little bit galling. The event, Liz Truss was there, and the guest speaker was Lois Perry, and I just thought I don't want to be disparaging against Lois Perry because she's a good friend of mine, and we're doing a speaker meeting together. But can you imagine being the former Prime Minister and you're in the room to listen to Lois Perry? And they didn't even like acknowledge her. She just stood there having a drink.
Oh.
Eek.
I feel a bit sorry for her, though, you know, lasting 40 days. I mean, I can see how she's
like Jesus.
Traumatised.
But again, we need a leader who's strong enough to last 40 days. That's why I'm not sympathetic at all.
Yeah, the shortest ever serving Prime
Then
Minister.
again, one thing I will say is that the government were working against her. They did not want to empower. They wanted Rishi Sunak, and that's like she was put in that place. She was voted for by the people, and then eventually the members of Parliament got what they wanted.
And what about Kwasi Kwarteng's responsibility in this?
Yeah, well, I have to say to you, I mean, the reason he fell out with her is he said, if you pander to these people by sacking me, it will be the end of you.
Yeah.
We've all heard that before. I'll tell you something with Rishi Sunak. I think what Ian Hislop said about him was right. It was the first British Prime Minister ever who didn't know anything about politics. But he got there by the Robert Mugabe method. He lost the election for Prime Minister and got the job anyway. By rigging the system. Look, I was really, really interested in all of these pictures of Kate back on form.
She looks great, doesn't she?
I mean, look, the reality is, I think we all felt very sorry for her. There's lots of rumours about exactly what very invasive surgery she had. We've decided as a station not to speculate, but there are only really two types of surgery that you can get. It wasn't a hysterectomy. But look, she has got back on a horse. At one point, it looked like the nightmare scenario of Prince William being elevated to king when his wife had recently died. Had the king and Kate both died simultaneously, that would have been a horrendous situation to be in. But they fought through it. I like her, you know.
Yeah, I think the way Kate has conducted this is so admirable. She didn't want to make a scene out of it, but obviously there was speculation, so she had to come forward. Honestly, I think Meghan Markle should take a page out of her book on how to conduct things in a proper manner.
Do you know what I like about her? And something else that I will say that Camilla has successfully done as well. She's done her job. You know, Camilla has had everything thrown at her, and she's just basically gone, look, the only thing I can do is turn up to charity events, cut ribbons and go, what is it that you do?
She's not playing the victim, is she?
No.
I think she's learnt from the Queen. They've seen the Queen, you don't say stuff, and you just, you know, you get on.
Also, I was just going to say, I have personal experience working with Prince William directly on charity campaigns. Him and his brother were very actively involved in standing up for young people and, you know, the issues that were most important to them. And I think as well, because you've got a lot of people who are just sort of like, they'll cut ribbons, or like, oh, look, I showed up here, but they were actively involved. And I think in regards to Kate as well, the way they've handled it has been with class.
Yeah, and you could see that she was very ill, and obviously we've all heard the rumours but she's gravely ill. But I'll tell you one thing that I wouldn't do. You know, I wouldn't mock somebody in her position who said, look, I've got multiple things here. My husband is the heir to the throne. His father's ill and old. Right, I'm ill as well, and we've got young kids, and now I have to go through. I mean, it can't be nice sitting your children down, going, I'm having this operation. Could you die? Well, what do you say? I mean, the answer is yes, I could die. I mean, she hasn't, and I don't think she will now. But But it's got to be really difficult, Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. I have complete sympathy for her, and I think people put the royal family on this pedestal that, you know, they have everything, everyone wants to be...
Well, they're meant to be on there. They put themselves on the pedestal,
in the sense that we can't relate to them being ill, that we can't relate to them experiencing grief, when in reality, I think that's one of the strengths of the royal family, that they are a family, that they do face these things like illness, what everyone goes through. And I think that's very powerful.
Yeah,
and it was her birthday. Happy birthday, Kate. She was 43.
I think she's also brought a degree of sanity to it, because I think the royal family is stuffy. Clearly, Charles is the stuffiest of stuffy, and I think that Diana got it completely wrong, and I think that Kate. And it's probably partly William as well, has just got that balance.
Well, she's an actual first normal person to marry into the royal family. They're always aristocrats, weren't they?
Yeah.
You know,
I'll tell you what I think they were right to do, which is, you know, they don't have servants.
Oh.
So what they do is they have this hybrid arrangement where whilst I mean, obviously they have the place cleaned and all that sort of thing, and it's within Windsor Great Parks, but what they do is they basically the cleaners come in and do whatever, deliver the groceries or whatever, but then they leave. There aren't people serving them tea.
Wearing stockings.
Yeah, and there aren't bells and all that sort of thing. I think that is sensible, because I think it's really important to understand that a lot of this is just for show. But then again, of course, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was the first person to live in first royal to live in Windsor Castle since, I think, Queen Victoria. And it's only because her mother wouldn't leave Royal Lodge.
They've experienced the problems with servants. You know, there was that butler. We had him on the show. Paul Burrell, so, you know, and he had a load of stuff, didn't he? And then the Queen was going to go in there to sort of scrap the whole case. So they've probably had quite a bad experience. Diana raised them sort of like to be normal people. Do you know what the police said to Paul Burrell when they raided his house? What? They said, "Where are they? You know what we're looking for." And he said, "You will never find them, and they're not in this house." He believes they were talking about the tapes that Diana recorded before her death, going through everything. Apparently, she recorded an absolute stinker, which Burrell has got. And of course, then what the police did... With that journalist.
Then what the police did, and this is what I've been told. I don't know if it's true. I don't want to do a conspiracy theory.
Just pretend it is.
But of course, Burrell's house was a treasure trove of things that were supposed to be in Kensington Palace. And he said that Diana had given him all the stuff. Then, just before he was about to be convicted, the Queen suddenly wrote a letter saying she remembered Diana mentioning it. Now,
yeah, because he called her a witness and she didn't want to do that, and apparently there was legal problems because it's Her Majesty's court.
It was suggested to me that Burrell had told the Queen, if I get convicted, the tapes go public.
But she threatened him with dark forces, apparently, allegedly. That's what he said, dark forces, you know. I mean, what's that mean? Well, we know
this is magic.
Just a little one before we go. NHS faces worst flu. This is in the Telegraph again. Faces worst flu season for a decade. The NHS, I mean, this is probably all to do with the cold and the heating allowance. All these will be mainly old people. I mean, James Wales is in there. He was in there. He's out now. The NHS is on track for its worst flu season in more than a decade. There were an average of 5,407 patients in hospital with flu every day. And now there's an average waiting time in some A&E of 50 hours, so I wouldn't bother if I were you, just do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing is, on the front page of the Daily Star, Richard Hammond splits from his wife. I don't care about things like that. It's a complete waste of time. Anyway, this has been the press preview. For those of you listening on Friday morning, Mike Graham will be just up in a couple of moments. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call, and we will see you later. OK, to those of you that are still listening on Thursday night, we're going to be taking your calls in a couple of moments, and we've got Lois Perry on, who is going to be talking about all things to do with her new organisation, which is the Heartland Institute, set up in the United States of America. It's now come to Europe. This is part of the Nigel Farage plan to bring more sort of civic society and political groups to the United Kingdom, because there is a general feeling that that's what built the Trump movement in the United States of America. Are we leaving you, Jess and Anna?
You're going to hang out with us?
I think I might have to hang up because of my train, but thank you. It's been great.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And I just want to say, and I don't want to be twee or ridiculous, but I think on behalf of the country, I just want to lament the fact that you've gone through all of these sexual harassments and whatever from migrants to the country. I think we're going to have to do a lot better at this. But anyway, Jess Gill, Anna McGovern, and we will be back with your calls in a couple of moments.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Your calls count, 0344 499 1000. Text the word, no, don't text the word talk, just 0344 499 1000. And you can use that also to send us a voice message on WhatsApp. I haven't done this in absolutely ages, but I'm just going to show you and tell you what you do. You literally open up your phone and you've got talk saved already. And here is mine, and then you just press, when you open it up, you just press this little microphone button, and I go, hello, this is Andre Walker. I'd just like to say to you that Asher Gould is the most gorgeous beast I've ever seen in my life, and I would really love to ruffle his hair. Now, if I take my finger off, that immediately goes through to the studio, and so it's a great way for you to comment. If you want to speak, can't be bothered typing, and you want to get something to us really, really quickly. Great, OK, well, let's talk now to Lois Perry. Lois Perry is the Executive Director of the Heartland Institute in Europe, which is it's only just launched, Lois. So before we get into the interview, just tell us what this is, because last time we saw you, you were doing the, was it Car 26 project?
Well, actually, the last time you saw me on talkTV, I had briefly been the leader of the UK Independence Party.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And you did the big exclusive interview explaining, you know, what had happened. So yeah, I had done Car 26 before, which was a climate realism campaign, bringing common sense to the net zero debate, or, well, in actual fact, having any kind of debate about net zero.
But so just to remind us, was that organisation interested in challenging the narrative?
Absolutely. Well, we just wanted to be able to talk about the whole climate realism argument full stop, without being called a denier or a lunatic or all of those things. I mean, I was regularly called those things, but I think that we were very successful in opening the debate and making it so that people could question net zero policy. They could have a debate. Scientists with different views were suddenly allowed onto television.
How worried are you, having been a campaigner in this field, about the lack of free speech? Because look, I mean, I'm coming on here and acting as if I don't know about your background, but of course I do, and I know that that when you first came up with Car 26 as a project, you know, basically on most channels, not this one, it has to be said, anybody who said anything that was against what the UN said on climate change was just banned from the airwaves.
Well, Ofcom used to have a go, didn't they?
Yeah.
You can't deny it. And the BBC.
Absolutely right. And the interesting thing is, you know, the IPCC reports, which is the, you know, the Bible for the wokes on climate change stuff. Yeah. Basically, they would come up with rulings and things saying that things weren't actually as bad as the way that the media were portraying it. But the briefings to the media and the briefings that were given to the politicians were, you know, apocalyptic in style. For example, the IPCC report, most recent report, says that there's been no increase in extreme weather events. Well, that's not how it's portrayed on the. If
you'd have said that 2 years ago on the BBC, they'd have basically cut you off.
I mean, today one of the papers said, "Oh, it's raised 1.5 degrees. It really was bad last year," and yet they didn't. I mean, has it got worse or better? Can you now actually deny that it happens, or it's pretty much the same, isn't it, as it was?
Well, there's been a 1.5 degree increase overall since the Industrial Revolution. But don't forget that we were coming out of that was the coldest it had been at that particular time on Earth for 10,000 years. So, you know, if you measure from the coldest point in 10,000 years, it is going to go up slightly.
But I tell you what upsets me, and I was thinking about this the other day. I've always said that I'm anti-pollution, right? I don't want to pollute things.
Environmentalism is completely different.
Yeah, I don't want to pollute the water. I don't want to pollute the air. I mean, you've got to be realistic. There's always going to be some element with human progress. But I was thinking the other day, this paganistic worship of carbon.
Worship.
Yeah, is first of all, I think, a function of the decline of Christian society. But also, there is no doubt that electric cars are not a green technology. They're horrendously bad.
None of these green alternatives are. And also, we're always going to be using as much oil and gas for the next 25 to 50 years as we are today, if not much, much more. So what we're doing is we're just shifting our carbon footprint to different countries, which of course makes no sense.
Like when we got rid of the steel industry in Petolba, and they just buy it now from China, so it's just as bad. In fact, it's worse because we have to import it.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Sorry, Andre.
I'll tell you something. We are going to move on because I do want to talk about the bits and bobs you do. But I will tell you one thing. When I worked in local government, we were required to recycle all of our stuff, and we used to stick it on a van to the port of Southampton. We would sign a deal with somebody in Thailand or China or India who used to nod, wink, wink, recycle it. They used to dig a big hole and throw it in. But anyway, look, before we talk about Donald Trump, which is why you came on, just tell us about the Heartland Institute, which is your new project.
Well, the Heartland Institute has been going for 40 years in the United States. It's a free speech, libertarian organisation. It's also a climate realist organisation. I have to be careful about the wording that I use here, but they are friendly with President Trump.
Yes. And Elon Musk. You want to get Elon Musk on board?
Well, quite. But so that there is an affiliation there, a friendly affiliation, and they've been extremely influential over the last 40 years in terms of policy and educating lawmakers. And so we brought it here, basically. I became friendly with them when I did Car 26. I was invited out to Washington, which was amazing. I met lots of fantastic people out over there. And I was very, very lucky to be invited to their 40th anniversary dinner in Chicago.
So let me just...
I was asked to front it in the UK and Europe.
Yeah. So let me just go on to this. So the first thing you've done is you've started a column. You started writing a column in the Daily Express, and in your latest article, or one of your latest articles, you're expressing real concerns that Donald Trump has said that British environmental policy is going to be damaging both the UK economy and the global economy. Explain.
Well, absolutely. What I've said is I agreed with Trump 100%. You know, the fact that we're effectively, by increasing the windfall tax on the North Sea oil companies from 35 to 38%, and we've said no more exploration in the North Sea, means we're literally cutting off our nose to spite our face. We will have no energy independence whatsoever. He also said that, you know, stop building. Why are you having wind farms? Wind farms are they're
horrendously bad for the environment.
It's not very windy at the moment, and it's certainly not very sunny. And all wind farms, all of these things need 100%.
Do you know? Let me tell you something utterly ludicrous about the level that the environmental lobby have gone to. Do you know the RSPB? The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds say that wind turbines are not dangerous to birds. I mean, they slice them in half. It's just utterly ludicrous.
Absolutely ridiculous. But this is covering up the main issue, which is, in America, you've got that Trump said that the whole thing is a nonsense, and obviously they frack. If we were fracking in this country, our energy costs would be well, like America, because the shale gas that's available in the Bowland Shale in the north of England is extraordinary.
And down in Gatwick, there's the Gatwick Gusher at Horse Hill. There's an enormous amount of gas under the ground there, but they won't frack it, of course, the people down in Sussex. But we could be self-sufficient. But also all these green policies are killing the economy and killing old people and putting the prices up of everything that you taxes so much that you don't realise how much damage it's causing with Ed Miliband and his
let's be clear on one thing. You know,
I agree.
What Ed Miliband is always able to say.
He looks deranged.
Well, he is deranged, but he is always able to say that. He's able to say at the ballot at the dispatch box. The Conservatives came up with this idea. This legal requirement for net zero is ruinous. Grangemouth, 4% of the Scottish economy, and we just decide to shut it down.
Well, as Nigel Farage said at my event last month, which you came to, Andre, is the deliberate deindustrialisation of the West, and this is going to be the next Brexit. As far as he's concerned, this is the next big campaign, because if it was genuinely to do with saving the planet, they might have a point, you know. But
I've said this before today, and forgive me if people find this like offensive, but well, I don't really care. I'm just pretending. But what happens is it's this worship of the earth. You know, and then lo and behold, a child is born who will save the sins of the world, Greta Thunberg. And you think, what you have actually done is you've walked away from your Christianity, your Judaism, your to a lesser extent Islam, and you've come up with this new pagan religion. And you get it the same, which is, you know, if anybody disagrees with it, a priestly class sort of burn them at the stake, figuratively.
And they've even come up with the pagan thing that if you don't do it, the crops will fail, like they did 2,000 years ago. They've sort of they've modernised
it. Man on acid, it really is. Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Look, I'll tell you something. Pollution is a bad thing, and it may well be that there's too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but quite apart from the science, climate change is a religion, not a science.
Absolutely. And whenever anyone says the science is settled, we all now know that's
that is precisely what religious extremists used to say, which is you can't challenge our authority. It's not look, at the end of the day, you are not allowed to have a debate with us. Forget that.
They cancel the scientists. I mean, look at David Bellamy, if you want to know a public figure, but he just got cancelled by the BBC. But there were loads of scientists that were saying this is bunkum, but they all got cancelled, and then they made that survey go 99% of scientists agree, because they'd got rid of all the ones that disagreed.
Well, what that actually was based on, there was about 200 scientific papers, and they worked out that they did it based on just 200 papers, and it was whether people were either not sure or questioned it slightly, and that's where that 99% figure came from. It's actually quite hilarious how that figure...
OK, Lois Perry from the Heartland Institute, thank you so much for coming on.
Lois.
I think that's my underpants.
That's mine. Why are you sniffing them?
No, I'll tell you what they are. They're my swimming shorts, and they have been cleaned. There we go. Beautiful. Can I tell you something? I feel sorry for the people at my local swimming pool. I mean, I come out, I jump into the pool, the water jumps out, and then they try and harpoon me because they think I'm a whale. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I know it is a bit early for the break, but we've got Ken in London, so let's give him a bit of time. Back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and I guess we just go straight to the phones. So Ken is in London. Ken, you're on Talk.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
If it's okay, I would like to speak about this evil issue of Muslim rape gangs, organised, certainly, not being arrested and jailed. I think this is perhaps the biggest scandal, possibly, biggest moral scandal in the history of the United Kingdom.
I think you're right, Ken. 250,000 girls, and that's just an estimate.
And also, Ken, let's just in fact say a prayer tonight for the fact that this is still going on. This isn't like the Welsh care homes when they called for a public inquiry after the paedophiles had been thrown out. Tonight, there are girls in this country, potentially hundreds and even thousands of girls chained up, being gang raped
for months and years.
Yeah,
it's a national emergency, and they shouldn't be messing about with an inquiry. There should be a task force.
Do you know what I would do? Do you know what I would do, Ken? If I was the Home Secretary, I would drag in Sir Mark Rowley and I would say, you find these kids and you free them now. Not tomorrow, not after you've put a strategy together, not after the public inquiry. You go, and if you have to do it yourself, you find these people, or I'm booting your backside out of that job.
You see, what's the horrible thing about this, in my opinion, in the north of England especially, it seems that the police have actually intervened in situations where they have found young girls naked, drugged up, alcoholic, being sexually molested by male Muslim Pakistani.
And blaming the girls themselves, saying, oh, they're tarts or something. And actually, it's just rape. It doesn't matter what the girl's like, if she's under 16. It's rape.
As you said, Asher, and sorry, we'll give you a second, Ken, but as you said, at one point, somebody turned to a 14-year-old and go, you consented. No, you didn't. You're 14. The law is very clear.
Yeah, but the problem here is, why in the world do the police arrest? They should take the girls into safety, but all the male in the room should have all have been arrested and taken to jail.
They're all in on it, Ken. The politicians, the police, they're all covering each other's backs, and now they're covering it like crazy. Because
you know why? It's fear.
Yes,
well, because they should be arrested and slung in prison.
Fear of Islamist terrorism, and there's a reason for that.
Well, it's electoral as well. They don't want to lose their jobs, their votes, get cancelled.
Well, but actually, look at that Charlie Hebdo situation in Paris, when they printed pictures of Muhammad. They were slaughtered, murdered.
Yeah, but here's what I don't understand, Ken. Right. Look, you're older, and I'm not particularly a fighter. I mean, we've all had a bit of a punch-up when we were younger, but I'm not, But if I was walking past a house and I was aware that a young girl had been tied up and gang raped, I would say to you, Ken, we are going in and freeing her, and if we are killed in the process, then unfortunately that is what we will have to do. We can't just say, oh, I'm worried about my own safety. You have a duty in a free society, in a fair society.
I would totally agree with that, Andre. I would totally agree with that. But here's another thought to consider. The Muslim community here have been silent about this. The Muslim community in general don't get involved in complaining about the evil deeds of these. I
mean, some do, but yeah, I think they're scared, and I think also, maybe, it's their cousins. I mean, I know there was a court case, and, they were done, banged to rights, and the family was still there shouting at the poor white girls that were witnesses.
Ken, I'll tell you what we've got. Stay with us, Ken, because we've got a couple of clips on the grooming gangs, and I think it might be worth just updating the viewers and listeners what's happened in the past couple of days. So let's go first to Kemi Badenoch.
Let us have the truth. The Prime Minister cannot tell the House the full scale of the scandal. He doesn't want questions asked of Labour politicians who may be complicit. Yep. He won't listen to the victims. He won't listen to the victims who are calling for a national inquiry. He is making this all about a bill this afternoon. Later today, he will tell Labour MPs, including in Telford, Rochdale, Bristol, Derby, Aylesbury, Oldham, Bradford, Peterborough, Coventry, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Ramsgate tell all of these people to vote against a national inquiry into the gangs which have systematically gang raped children in their constituencies. This is one of the worst scandals in British history, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I think
it's the worst scandal in British history.
I think that's right. I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we go through all of the clips and then Ken can respond in a second. Let's go now to the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage.
Well, so much talk over the last few days about grooming gangs, or should I say rape gangs. And Keir Starmer today saying that anyone who's calling for a full public inquiry is jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. Wrong, Prime Minister. The vast majority of people in this country are absolutely mortified by what has gone on. But even worse, the cover-up we've had from the police, social services, and both Conservative and Labour governments. The inquiries that have happened so far have been nothing more than a whitewash. There needs to be a full public inquiry. Let us find out the truth of the scale of this. I'm told that in up to 50 British towns, these gang rapes were going on. I believe the public need the truth. We must have an inquiry.
Yes, indeed. And the final clip before we go back to Ken to respond is Chris Philp. I think he's the Shadow Home Secretary. He was speaking to Harry Cole on the absolutely brilliant, by the way, Never Mind the Ballot show that we make for The Sun. Take it away.
Which police?
So you want basically, essentially, a show trial?
I want to know who covered this up. I want to know who failed these victims by being negligent, by disbelieving their accounts. I want to see a day of reckoning for those people who did not do their job properly.
That's not an inquiry, though. That's a show trial.
No, it's not a show trial. It's getting to the truth about what happened. It's finding out if there are other towns where this happened that we don't even know about sitting here today.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, Ken? Because I have to say that there are a number of different silos here, aren't there? There's support for the victims, which has clearly been inadequate. There's working out which parents and which victims have been criminally prosecuted and overturning them, Horizon post office style. Then there's making sure that that perpetrators have been prosecuted. Very few have. And then the final thing, which I think is the most important of all, believe it or not, is to criminally prosecute those public officials who turned such a blind eye to this that they were basically helping.
I would totally agree with you again, Andre. To me, it looks clear that anyone with a moral conscience, anyone can see clearly that there is a certain cover-up taking place by the Tories for many years, and now especially by the Labour when they get more information.
Do you know, Ken, I want to ask you this question. You are somebody, so I mean, I don't really know you, but I've met you. I like you, and the reason I like you is because you're somebody who's willing to dedicate your life to standing up for what you believe in, right? Now, I know you're not a shouty person. You stand there with your... Well, you shouted at Mick Lynch, but anyway. But what I don't understand is the level of cowardice here, why people are not willing to stand up and say, look, I accept I'm going to be accused of being racist. I accept I'm going to be accused of being far right. I accept that I'm going to be castigated. But as a police officer, I will not allow these men to rape girls. It will not happen. You can paper the walls with allegations of being far right. Why is there so little moral courage?
Cowardice, you use the word cowardice. That's the answer. It's not only Christians who are opposed to that. Everybody with a moral conscience should oppose.
It's not just morals, it's political expedience. At the top of the police, they're all politicians. They're looking for the next job, and you won't get the next job if you go against the fake narrative.
Asher, I know you agree with us, but just give us a second, Ken. Just to say this to you. You know, for me, political expediency is perhaps accepting that you have to have the Trident nuclear submarines when you're anti-nuclear, right? It's not saying let's allow 50,000 girls to be sodomised.
Yeah, but if you lose your seat to them, that's what they're... I mean, it's disgraceful and disgusting. I mean, that's what Jess Phillips is doing. She's making it all about herself because she nearly got votes. She only won by 600 votes in Yardley in Birmingham, and next was an Islamist party. So they're all worried for their own backs. But how immoral can you be? To throw these vulnerable girls under the bus.
Here's an important point, I believe, from a Christian viewpoint. What's happened in our nation is the Bible has been mocked. Jesus Christ, the Messiah, is mocked. Christianity is mocked. Now, the Christianity in the UK is going down the tubes in most areas, not amongst the Pentecostals. I'm a Pentecostal and the evangelicals, but in general, the country has turned its back on Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but if you look, Ken, and not talking about...
Hold on, Andrew.
Sorry, okay, go on.
This country, telling you the truth here, this country is on the highway to hell because we are mocking the Son of the living
God. But the problem, but let me say this to you, Ken, and I'm not talking about the UK now, I'm talking about the Irish Republic. The sad fact is about the Irish Republic, which was one of the most Christian countries in the world, the child sexual abuse by the Catholic Church and the scandal of the treatment of pregnant teenagers has destroyed Christianity in that country. You know, if you look at the level of church going now compared to 20 years ago, the point I'm making is that Christian leaders have themselves exploited situations and ended up moving people away from that faith.
I'd like to correct something you said there, Andre. You said Christian leaders. It's religious leaders.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Christian leaders.
I'll buy that.
Religious leaders are leading the people astray. And the Catholic Church, the Church of England, even in some evangelical churches, sadly. That's the problem. But here's a thought for you. If you don't mind, just let me tell you the real difference here between Christianity and Islam. Jesus Christ is the founder of Christianity, and he tells his followers, he says, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Now, the leader and the founder of Islam is Muhammad. This is what he says to the people. I will instill terror into the hearts of the unbelievers, smite them above their necks, and smite off all their fingertips.
That's not very nice.
It is not you who slew them, it was Allah. That's the difference between Christianity...
But Jesus wasn't the founder, was he? Because it happened 200 years after Jesus had died.
Nonsense. Jesus Christ founded the church on his death and resurrection. You're a Jew. You're opposed.
I thought he was a Jew. I thought he died a Jew.
He's the King of the Jews, and he's coming back as the King of the Jews.
That's avoiding the question.
Well, hang on a second. That assumes, Ken, we are going to have to leave it here, but that assumes that Christianity is not a sect of Judaism.
It's Jewish.
Anyway,
he should be Jewish, Ken, if he's King of the Jews.
By the way, anyway,
we'll settle that next time.
Right, we're not doing that, but thank you so much, Ken. I have to say, look, Ken has robust views, but I think there's going to be thousands of you sitting at home who agree with him. We're going to be talking to Steve right after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and it's a bit of a sad story. And for those of you who weren't listening earlier, you know, we had Anna McGovern on and Jess Gill. Obviously, they are political contributors, but both of them had found, you know, recent migrants to the country, chasing them down the street. Anna McGovern was groped. I mean, you know, literally lifted up in between her legs. I'm trying to be polite. By somebody who later ran after her. The guy was deported, but it took us 2 years to do it. What upsets me is they're saying every young woman has experienced at least some poor behaviour from migrants. It's not all of them, and I think what we are failing to do is separate the wheat from the chaff. If you come to this country and you work hard and want to pay your taxes and learn English and whatever, great. If not, kick them out. Anyway, Steve is in Walsall.
In the Black Country. Country of colour, sorry, yeah.
OK, sorry, Steve, go on.
Have we got me right? Now, I was talking to a friend of mine just lately, and he was a senior social worker.
Yeah.
And he was on about this child rape and all this business. And this was 2 years ago, perhaps 3 years ago when he worked there. And these two girls ended up in front of him, and they'd escaped from somewhere. They was only young, about 14, 15. And he had to take the case. Anyway, he got a case compiled, all literature and everything ready, where all this had been going on. These two girls had explained it all, and he put his report in front of the police. And have a guess what the police did?
Drop the case.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And this organisation, what he exposed was bang to rights.
Well, I'll tell you something.
I bet nothing happened to them either.
I'll tell you what happened to me. I was, I've said this before, I was press officer for Children's Services at Westminster City Council. I was also press officer for licensing. Now, as you can imagine, very little Children's Services ever is talked about publicly. But I did sit through some of the meetings, and I must admit, we were in a very difficult meeting one day where the head of Children's Services, there was a girl who was 14 who was working as a prostitute at King's Cross, and she was in care. And the problem was, we moved her to a sort of Borstal type thing. But in the end, we said, look, she's been there a month. We can't keep her incarcerated without being criminally convicted or anything. We're going to have to send her to a children's home.
So they treated her as a criminal?
Yeah, well, she was...
Which is a disgrace. She was raped if she was a prostitute. You can't consent.
Exactly. The problem was she kept absconding from the care home. Now, my argument is we need to do something about that. But the way you deal with that is by arresting the customers. That's the way you deal with it.
Because it's rape. Every customer is rape, you know.
Yeah, I mean, because of that, he saw some horrendous things and had to deal with some horrendous things because he was a senior social worker. And because of that, it upset him that much. He resigned his position and he got a damn good job. He said to me, he said, I wondered why you're there, you're packaging. He said, I couldn't stand it no more.
No. And what's the rest of the story in Walsall? Is there rumours of gangs in Walsall?
Well, it's like Dodge City.
Well, I know. I used to know Walsall very well.
By the way, just to explain to some of the listeners, there's been a bit of a debate about Walsall because when we discussed it previously, I think we listed it as one of the places that has really been destroyed by uncontrolled immigration and deindustrialisation. Yeah. But there've been people who've contacted us saying you would not believe how nice this place was, 40 years ago.
It was a rich, industrial place.
It was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But I had the police round, I think it was last year, because I was only having the crack with the girl from B2 renewing my internet. Next thing I know, in 10 minutes, I'd got a police round at my house. They wanted to know my guns and everything, about the bomb I'd said I'd got in my car.
What, as a joke? You said something, did you?
Well, won't it? I have got a bomb in my car, but it's legal.
You've got a bomb in your car? What do you mean?
Anyway, they come and I said, well, what...
Well, hold on, no.
What do you mean?
How have you got a legal bomb in your car?
What are you talking about, Willis?
Yes. And they said, have you...
No, hold on. What are you talking? You've got to expand on that, because you must be joking. You can't actually have a bomb in your car.
I'm joking, I'm telling you. They said, where you had that from? Have you made it? I says, no, I've bought it. You can buy them off the internet. Now, what's known as field alarms. And he says, right, he's on his...
Right. They're those strings that, and it sets off a bomb to a sort of bang to scare birds away.
No, anyway, then I wanted to know where my guns.
You didn't have a bomb in your car.
Yeah. I'm getting confused about the bomb.
Yeah, but you've got to be careful what you're saying, Steve. You can't just come on air and say...
So you told the BT woman that you've got guns in the house...
I'm not surprised the police were around.
I said that, well, we have to report those things.
Well, of course, if you say that, the police will be around you, and they should be, if you go and tell them...
Yeah, well, I'm legal. I was legal.
All right, but, I mean, doesn't...
Yeah, but if you say, I've got a bomb in my car...
You didn't have a bomb in your car, though, did you? You had one at a field.
I was just having a crack with it, got all out of hand.
But in Germany, 5 people were killed by fireworks on recently.
And they're meant to be efficient.
Yeah.
I said it's not a bomb; it was like a banger.
Well, that's what you should have said in the first place.
Isn't a banger a good song?
I said, well, where's the shotgun? You've got a sausage in your bed. I said, I haven't got a shotgun. I said, I'm in the crack. Anyway, I had to get the guns out the cabinet and show them all. And I said, I'll tell you something now. If you fire any of those guns out of your front window, anybody messing with your motors, you'll have a SWAT team round in 5 minutes.
Yeah. It does sound like,
But I'm now joking now. Back to this child grooming thing. There's another one. A friend of mine, he takes children into care, young children, about 5, 6, 7. And I was talking to her one day, and I said to him, I says, why are these children in your care? He said, because the fathers have been messing with them.
Oh, yeah. I've got to be honest with you, and I don't want to betray confidence, but I went to the looked after children thing at Westminster City Council, and the stories that you heard, this isn't... These kids are not taken into care because dad has a couple of drinks and mum's a bit crap at cooking.
Most paedophiles is from the family, the normal, You
hear the stories normal, you hear. I mean, there was one young lad who'd been pimped out by his dad for heroin.
And often it's siblings as well. It can be siblings.
Anyway, let's leave it there because we don't want to get into this whole detail. Yeah. But I'll tell you what we're going to do, Robert. Let's go to a break. Do we go to a break now?
That was Steve in the Black Country.
Go to a break now and then go to Robert? I think so. No, go to Robert now then. Okay.
Hertfordshire Bob.
Hello, guys. What we need in his child sex scandal is a SAR, C-S-A-R. We need someone who's completely. We need someone who's completely fearless, who's got no political affiliation. They can't be traced back to being right wing, and we need probably with the backbone of Nigel.
Robert, can I ask you this question? I think we could solve it very easily. Let's bring back the death penalty.
It's not going to happen, is it?
Well, I would do it.
Shouldn't we just forget the Tsar and everything? Shouldn't we just get a police in all areas, take them off their internet things, looking for people to Twitter, and make a proper unit that's going to go out and make mass arrests of all these people who enabled it and who carried out these rapes? Yeah, that's what we need. It's an emergency that's happening right now.
Yeah, but we could say that about the BBC with Jimmy Savile. No one was prosecuted.
But that wasn't... These are girls going on right now at the time. We didn't know about that.
By the way,
after.
I think that stateless refugees and people like that, while they're under consideration, Scotland is full of uninhabited islands. All we do is we build some houses and we airdrop them food until we decide what.
6,000 islands around here. Yeah. The British Isles is 6,000 islands.
But it's mostly Scotland.
Yeah.
What they need the old-fashioned way. Just give them a good hiding. Get them in the place.
Well, let me tell you, the rules in Islam for doing it are particularly fruity. So maybe we should go with that, a couple of beheadings and things like that. I mean, it sounds like I'm joking, but I have to say, if people are getting away with raping 250,000 girls, your criminal justice system has failed. Now, part of that is policing, but part of it is punishment. And I would have no problem with bringing back the rope for child grooming and child rape. I'd have no problem.
Who is the most senior cleric in this country, and why hasn't he stood up and spoke out against it?
Well, the last Archbishop was covering up for his mates anyway.
Oh, that
torturing paedophiles.
That filth beast that was bloody whipping people and all that. Yeah. Anyway, Robert, thank you so much. Let's go to Ali in the West Midlands. Ali, you're on talk.
West Yorkshire.
West Yorkshire. Sorry, Ali.
Where a lot of this has happened, doesn't it? Where in West Yorkshire are you?
Just Leeds, mate.
All right, go for it.
You all right, guys? How you doing?
Right, mate.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, so I just want to say about these rape gangs. I think it's horrific. atrocities that have happened, and I think heads need to roll, really.
Ali, can I ask you this? Because you sound like an Asian gentleman. I mean, you've got to be angry that a whole community are being besmirched by this.
Yeah, I'm actually raging. Me, my family, my sister, my mum, grandparents, they're raging, honestly.
Are you Pakistani Muslim? What are you?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. What you say?
Are you Pakistani Muslim?
Yeah, I'm Pakistani. Yeah.
And do you know of other people in the communities who do this sort of thing? Because, you know, they believe a bit of Islam that says, oh, if they're not Muslims, you can do what you want, and if they don't cover their hair, they're not real.
No, we're quite secular people, actually. And thankfully, I haven't come across any of these animals, to be honest. Thankfully.
Can I ask you this, Ali?
If I did, I would I'd lynch him myself, to be honest.
OK, Ali, I just want to... by the way, apologies for the language, but I understand why...
I always use the law rather than your own.
I've got to say, Ali, I fully understand why you're upset, and I'll tell you why, if it was really me. Angry, because what has happened here is we have allowed these people, you know, the police, the government, whatever, to get away with it for years, and then the excuse is we did it because we don't want to offend Pakistani Muslims. So that is smearing you. So I can understand why you're upset.
Yeah, no, I don't buy any of that garbage. These people, what they've done is horrific. What they've done, I'd call it atrocities. Really, what they've done.
Well, it is, no doubt about it.
If I was in charge of justice, I would actually. I don't know if I can say on TV, but I'd chemically castrate these animals. To be honest, quite frankly.
Well, we're chemically castrating children. So, Ali, let me just say something else to you.
Well, I'm physically castrating.
So to the extent that.
And do you know what? If they did this in Muslim countries, a lot of Muslim countries, they'd be executed.
Well, I've no problem with that. Ali, I want to ask you this. So maybe it's two questions, but the second one is based on the first one. So first of all, to what extent is there a Pakistani community? Right. So, you know, is it as collective as we make out? And secondly, what is the wider community saying about this? Because we know that there are some people who are in denial. It sounds like you are very much not in that category.
Oh, God, no. To be honest, it's really fractured. It's not... the way it's portrayed, like it's all homogenous, really not fractured. There's different sects. There's obviously Sunni, Shia, Wahhabi, other sects, and obviously Christians, and secular, and so they're not one homogenous group like it's made out in the media.
And I'll tell you the other thing that I wonder, and people keep saying there's no evidence of this, but you know what? Your takeaways open all night. You've got these taxis running children from safe house to safe house. What regular kebab shop has a safe house? I'm sure these are drugs gangs.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. And it's not just, obviously, these rape gangs. It's what they funnel money laundering in a lot of these businesses and takeaways and stuff. There's a lot of heroin.
There's a lot of heroin dealing and drugs, aren't there, as well?
Yeah. That's mostly from that.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed an uptick in racism against you? Because now it is, Ali, I'm sorry to say this, it is simply a fact that the police and the government have basically said every Pakistani does this.
Well, I wouldn't say it. To be fair, I've been posted on this social media because obviously I'm quite a liberal person, quite a left-wing person, and obviously I post about LGBT rights and stuff like that, so I'm quite a secular liberal person. When I've been posting about this stuff in particular, I've made a few posts about this, not recently, this is like previously I've talked about it. I would get hate for it. I get, why are you indulging it? Why are you talking about this stuff? I'm saying, well, why can't I talk about this
We
stuff?
need more people like you who are from the community to actually, because you can't be called a racist if you're from that community, do you know what I mean?
And also, I think
it's hard.
There's a lot more people, sorry.
I'm going to give you a couple of minutes as well, but Ali, I just want to be clear on one thing. You are a victim of this, and your family are a victim of this. And I'll tell you why. You are not as much victims, obviously, as the girls, and I would never be crass enough to suggest that. But what has happened is the good name... The good name of you and the good name of your family has been dragged through the mud because we have said... We've said that you are allowed to rape children if you're a Pakistani, and that, by extension, smears you as a rapist.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, what I would say is these people, they're on the fringes of our community. We're actually, for example, all of my cousins, my female cousins, they're obviously my mom. We're aware of these people. We're told about that. These are really horrific people. And you should always just be careful of them.
But they're all known. That's the thing. It's all known in the open. The community know who these people are.
Is there a tendency, Ali, is there a tendency, and this is the impression that I get, that, first of all, the Pakistani community is super polite, right? So even if they completely disagree with what you're saying, they'll give you a smile anyway. Is there an extent to which that politeness extends so far that actually they don't call out wrongdoing when they see it?
I think so, personally, yeah. I think, because like you said, it goes back to also a lot of these mosque and community centres. They're too scared to talk about these issues. I've actually talked about certain stuff in the past, and I've been like, why are you talking about stuff like that, this and that? So I don't really attend.
But it's very tribal, isn't it? I mean, they will put their community before the law, and there's stuff like, I know the taqiyya law means you can just lie against the kuffar, you know. There's just certain things that are going on as well.
Do you know that law that's from the Wahhabis, and what you see of these terrorists around the world, and the terrorists and they're all Wahhabis. They all believe in this backward shite.
Any girl who passes puberty you can have sex with, and if they don't cover their hair and they're not Muslim, you can do what you want.
Although I do want to say one thing. I don't know a great deal about Islam, but my friend Asghar, who was the mayor of Windsor, was a Wahhabi, and funny enough, my driver Kuram is a Wahhabi. Got a driver, right? But my driver Kuram is a Wahhabi, and they're very lovely people. Well, look, Ali, I'm going to leave this here, but I just want to say something from the bottom of my heart to you, and I hope you will pass it on to your family from us at Talk. We genuinely feel for you as good British citizens who stand up for this country, pay the taxes and are respectable. You have been smeared in a horrendous way, and I just genuinely want you to know that we recognise that you are victims of this. As I say, not as much as the young girls. We are with you 100%, and anything that you and your family want to do to attempt to kick these scumbags out of your community, you will have the support of the entire Talk family. So thank you so much, and please do pass that on to your family. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you know what we've just decided to do? We've had a bit of an editorial decision. I don't know if he's agreed to it yet, but we're going to try and get Ali on Zoom tomorrow to go through this properly. I just think he's got so much knowledge.
We want to see his face.
He's got so much knowledge about this. And we were just saying in the break, genuinely, that... You know, it upsets Asher and I, and indeed the team, that this is so negative against the Pakistani community, so many of whom are, you know, just decent, hard-working people. And I'm just really pleased that somebody from that community has come on to say how angry they are. Because, I mean, you know, being smeared as a child rapist is not a great thing to be. As I say, that doesn't make you as much of a victim as the children, but it still makes you a victim. OK, let's go to Luke in Bromley. Luke, you're on Talk.
Hi guys, always a pleasure.
All right, Luke.
Not too bad, thank you. Listen, there's so much news going on around the world, it's crazy to know what to follow, but obviously there's the fires in LA. It's hard to kind of feel sorry for people with 5 houses and one of them's burnt down, but obviously the amount of people working there and stuff is incredible, so it's a real loss.
It's a terrible fire,
Yeah. So this evening I was in the sauna, and it's normally saw some great news and debate in the sauna. In the sauna.
So do you like get naked and chat to all the fellas about politics?
It's very tasteful. He wears a toga.
There's ladies in there as well. But,
oh, really? So do the ladies get that one? So it's like a regular crew, because what happened to me was when I started going to the gym, didn't go very often for a start, but like people recognised me off the telly, and like the word got round that I was kind of, and then people just started talking to me, and what they do is like they start talking to me, and it became clear they knew who I was, which was a bit weird, especially if you're a chubby white guy in your underpants. It's not great.
Well, it's quite an interesting place, because you meet regulars and stuff, and you talk and stuff, and in the steam room you can't see each other, and in the sauna you can. I go there because it's good health, it's good medicine for the brain and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is it's always intense. So yeah, it's slightly a bit. But listen, what do you reckon about these fires? I mean, how do they start? There's all sorts of theories going around about why and how they started. Whether it's homeless people setting fire, which clearly that is going on. They've got videos of it going on.
Well, it was cutbacks, wasn't it? And it was DEI hires and people who don't know what they're doing, and redirecting water and saving the smelt fish, all stupid, and not clearing the brush. Because basically the council, or whatever they're called... Well, basically the council had said, well, it doesn't matter. If we have a forest fire, we don't want to pay for the cost of picking up all the twigs. If we have a big fire, then it goes to the federal government have to pay. Apparently that was what Trump was saying.
And all the famous people are really angry because, like, they're saying, look, California is the 5th biggest, largest economy in the world, right? California alone, and they can't afford to have a decent fire brigade. And it's obviously led by a bunch of woke people who are kind of put in that position because...
Why does it matter what you do in the bedroom as to what your qualification is to put a fire out?
I'll tell you what, it just reminds me of you know... We've heard it so many times. One example is Grenfell Tower. The fact it's a fire is not particularly relevant. I remember people saying, what we need is more fire inspectors. No. The fire inspectors that said Grenfell Tower was safe, sack them. Right? We don't need more idiots like that. We need less of them and getting some people. But you know what happens? Somebody turns around from the London Fire Brigade and from Kensington Chelsea Council going, well, I thought it was safe. You signed to say it was safe. These people can't do the job, and then they go, well, I tried my best.
Yeah. Well, do you know, they still give advice to stay in your flat if there's a fire. I mean, would anyone stay in their flat if there's a fire because they can be contained? I mean, I remember when it was Rees-Mogg said, well, they should use the common sense. I mean, you're not going to ever, after Grenfell, you wouldn't ever hang around and wait. You'd be pretty mad on it.
I just find, I'll tell you, Luke, you just find this, and it's happening in this country all the time now, where what we do is we accept you did your best. I will tell you something. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Keir Starmer, turns around and goes, the reason why I didn't prosecute Jimmy Savile and Mohammed Al-Fayed is because it didn't come across my desk. Yes, that is the problem. You didn't recognise...
That's negligence.
You didn't recognise the importance of the case because you were crap at the job.
And now he's saying about the grooming gangs when it was splashed on the Times, so he couldn't have... It's no plausible deniability there. He was head of the DPP when he was there, the CPS.
So what's the answer then? What's the solution? Because we can complain loads, but what's the solution?
No, I'll tell you what we need to do. We need to start cutting back on government officials. I think it was Napoleon said we're a nation of shopkeepers. We're now a nation of government inspectors. Can I tell you how did we used to deal with ice on the roads? Well, I'll tell you what we do now. There is a government requirement to have contracts publicly advertised. So what happens is you have to get these big grit vans shared by local authorities. So, by the way, all the roads freeze at the same time. So when Bracknell's roads are frozen, so are Windsor's. So there aren't enough vehicles. Do you know what they made basically illegal? What used to happen in my borough, in the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, a farmer had the grit all year round, and somebody would phone him up at 9 o'clock at night and go, Mr. Rayner, you're going to need to distribute the grits today. And what he used to do was he'd go round at 4 in the morning, filling up all of the yellow tubs, and then he'd knock on somebody's door who was designated to do it, and he'd go, right, you're going to have to start gritting now, and those people would get 10 quid.
We don't have that anymore.
No, well, what happened in Birmingham?
Made illegal.
If you want a yellow grit box now, they said we need a yellow grit box here. OK, that's £50,000 because they've got a 25-year contract with a private company, so you can't just get a grit box put in because of the expense.
By the way, somebody has just texted in loads of messages about Ali and loads of people supporting those members of the Pakistani community who've been smeared. But somebody said, what did the Mayor of London do? Well, the answer is what Sadiq Khan did was demanded that Suella Braverman, as Home Secretary, apologise for falsely claiming that there were Pakistani grooming gangs operating in Britain.
Isn't it? Yeah, on that point, listen, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that it's important that when people are being blamed, that people from the community stand up against it and absolutely speak up. So it's great to hear from such people. We want to hear good people on that side to say, look, this is actually what we there's areas of us who want to believe and stick up for good things, but fear from them, and hopefully defend and,
Absolutely. Luke, we're going to leave it there because we've got Stefan, who is in Wolverhampton. Stefan, you're on talk.
Good evening, chaps. I'll be quick because I know we're running out of time here, but I just want to say a massive respect to Ali and the many other from the Pakistani community like him, because they, just as it happens with all races, they have their name dragged through the mud by this stupid government stereotyping. And I think that how hard would it have been for the government to have just come out and said exactly who's doing it? You would unite good people of all colours against those bad people, but instead they turn it into a Pakistani versus, and, it's not right on people like...
And they're doing it to save their own backs, in Parliament and in the councils to get voted in again.
That's what it is. And I'll say one more quick thing as well. We need to be very careful as the white community not to... undermine the fact that other communities have had to deal with this exact same thing. The Sikhs will tell you. And also, let's not forget Birmingham riots 2005 in Lascelles over this issue. That was a black girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Handsworth, wasn't it?
I think we've got to remember, we've got